Welcome back. I forgot to do the intro, Brad.
Get it together.
So I'm going to do it right now.
Not only are we a half an hour late.
I'm going to do it right now. Watch this. Watch this.
Okay.
I'm going to do it right now.
Okay.
Let's get ready to rumble! If you smell what the rock is, Giants for the win! Bang! Y'all ready for this?
Now we're good to go. Now we're live.
Great intro. So did you license that music?
So I talked to somebody and they're like, "Well, where did you get it from?" Like, I don't want to get into this. I don't know how that stuff works. Because I thought of that. My original one had like other music, like actual music. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, wait a minute. This really isn't.
In all honesty, though, a lot of people rip off the Bulls intro music.
Well, and so there's free downloads for like ringtones. And so if you get it that way, I wonder how that works. And that's where I got it.
Oh, well, I mean, if you sourced it for free, I think you're fine. But I think you'll run into the problem. Like if you start to really profit off this, then you're going to have an issue.
Well, I got told the worst. So what will happen first is you'll just get told to remove it. Like there's going to be no issues as long as you agree to remove it. And I said, that's fine. I would do that. But here's the other thing. So what I use for my podcast, there's now a new feature for Spotify Music. So I can add Spotify Music. And this is on there. I just put it all together. So part of me is like, is this okay still? Because I'm going through the website.
Yeah, then I think you're fine.
And then,
again, not a lawyer, but
no, I talked to some people about it, and they were like, I think you're okay because this really isn't music. You're just taking audio and putting it together. The only music is maybe the Bulls intro and the Space Jam. But like, how many people use that?
No. The cool thing would be is if The Rock sued you.
He has better things to do. I think that's the big one that would get me in trouble.
Yeah. Because I think he's trademarked that saying.
Oh, but does that mean I can't say it in public? That's where I get mad.
No, but I think the problem comes like you're trying to make money off of, you know what I mean?
My comeback to that is I cut it off before he finishes. So I didn't use the full phrase. You can't hear him say the end of it. So that's where I'm going to come back.
That's a real borderline thing. That's a real candy ass move.
I like to live dangerously.
Oh, congratulations.
I think the worst thing that would happen is, what is it, a cease and desist? Like, you need to take this off. And guess what? Yeah. My happy ass would take it off.
And that's just a sign that, like, you're doing a good job. You're obviously, like, reaching enough people that someone cares.
Yeah, that'll never happen. But, like,
which, by the way, how many podcasts do you put out in a week? I feel like my timeline is 50% you just like, and here's my 15th podcast of the week.
It's because it's on a different platform, so I share the episode like 6 different times just to be like, oh, it's on Spotify, it's on.
Gotcha.
It's on this. I got it on iHeartRadio, which is pretty nice.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I found out it was on a thing called Podchaser, which I didn't know was a thing. I was just looking to get it on like Stitcher, then on Google it showed it showed it on Podchaser, and I was like, what is this? And I went on there. I had to claim it. Like, I had to go on there and like claim it because somehow it was on there. No, that's where I screw up. Is the podcast, because people are pretty professional. Like, oh, every Tuesday and Friday something comes out. Well, I, on the other hand,
just like whenever I have time.
I originally did that because I was like, whenever I get it done, it's going out.
Yeah.
Because people that you interview or talk to, they kind of, I feel like they'll get, I don't want them to wait like 2 months. This is where I originally did Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think it was like Tuesdays and Thursdays or Tuesdays and Fridays. But then we started this, so I'm like, okay, I have to put this out on Sunday. Well, I'll just put this out again on Monday. Then it turns into, well, now I'm going to go to Tuesday and put something out.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm on the Unhinged Sports Network, so on Wednesdays at 3:00, an episode comes out. And so now I'm in that whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I can put whatever I want. I could, like, this is live on YouTube, which people need to like and subscribe to this. I forget to say that. I could save this audio and put it on that Unhinged Sports Network on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Which is probably what I should do, is we just do this video and then on Wednesdays release this, but then it's, I don't know. Too much going on.
All right. This is a hot start to a really boring podcast if we just talk about how a sausage is made here behind the scenes. So
I forgot to do the freaking intro because that's still new because our other intro, I got a copyright claim saying that if I ever made money off that video, it would go to Metallica.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Because that's the good thing about YouTube is if you have that on your video, the moment it uploads, it tells you.
Yeah.
This intro I had, it does not. So
you know what you could probably do? You could probably do the 3-in-1 as your intro music.
The 3-in-1.
The Illinois fight song.
Oh.
Because that's public domain.
I could.
Yeah.
Might have
then I could start every episode going, Chief.
Oh, but then I'll get called names because that's not a thing.
It's not a thing. We're about to be the Kingfishers.
Can we just be kind of like the Washington football team? Like, we're Illinois, the school.
You know there's already a college that does that, right? North Dakota State.
But they're the Bison.
No. They were the Sioux. And they took it away, and now they don't have a mascot. They're just North Dakota State.
Can we just be Illinois, the school?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so I don't think people have a problem with the Illini. And that's what they were saying, like, if our mascot moved to the Kingfisher, we're still the Illini, but then your mascot is this bird.
No thanks.
Which I hate. I hate bird mascots. And I say that as a Cardinals fan. I just think it's dumb.
And it just doesn't work with Illinois. So, guys, my co-host Brad Miller and his dog replacing Coach West, who is dealing with his 1996 AOL dial-up.
Yep. Topher understands the importance of high-speed internet.
Oh, Topher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have Coach West live from the car. I was kind of excited about that. I was like, live from the car, Coach West.
I'm not going to lie, like, have you ever noticed when dads on, like, social media take their first photo, it's always from, like, down here?
Mm-hmm.
It was a real dad photo. Like, of him trying to do the podcast from the car.
Well, it's better than AOL dial-up from 1996.
True. Yeah, he's talking about getting internet that, like, bounces itself off grain bins. And I was like, that's the most central Illinois shit I've ever heard in my life.
Well, we know somebody that lives closer to Wilmington, Illinois, and their little town has, like, the worst internet. Like, if more than two people are on a computer, it doesn't work.
In the whole town?
Like this little cul-de-sac thing or whatever. And I guess they're fighting to get everybody would have to pay thousands of dollars to get, like, internet be put around.
Yeah, because they have to run cable.
And I never thought of that. I was like, thank goodness. Like, the only good real thing about living in a big suburb is you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And that's weird because, like, we live kind of out on the edge of town, but our internet's really fast.
Yeah, ours is AT&T. Like, our building, AT&T has it set up. Now, you don't have to do it. You can get whoever. But the thing's
Yeah.
already set up. So we just, AT&T got their fastest one. I mean, never had a problem until recently because I think there is a way to reset your memory on your modem. And I got to figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know. My biggest thing right now is, like, have you ever used a, like, Wi-Fi booster?
Nope. That made our viewer leave.
What?
We had a viewer and then that sound happened and then they're gone.
Yeah, I know. She's sitting over here. Instead of, like, normal people use coffee cups, we have 5 million of those metal tumblers. Like, literally a million of them. We're about to have dedicated these. A million of them.
Yeah, you only need like 2.
And it doesn't take a whole lot to stir honey into hot water.
We're about to lose our show.
You're lucky.
I say this on her laptop.
Yeah.
You're just lucky this is being recorded.
No more podcasts ever.
Yeah, you're lucky this is being recorded, or someone would be smacked up beside your head with.
I was about to say, this is the only thing keeping me from being murdered right now. Is there's video evidence.
Steve, never hit the end button. Never stop.
Actively holding a chef's knife in front of me right now.
You just wait till that hour and a half mark when you're done. I swear to. Guys, that's why the last show was 3 hours, because Brad was gonna get upside the head with a frying pan. We had to keep going. No, Coach West will join us maybe at some point.
Yeah, he said maybe towards the end because he's getting his stuff hooked up right now, right?
Right, but what, Coach West, he's dedicated.
Obnoxious with a metal tumbler again.
That's okay. I believe in you.
Hey, this is raw. We need real life. We need real life happening.
And now we're listening to the ice maker run.
This is real life, and if nobody appreciates it, they can go kick rocks because this is real.
You know what? Fucking life happens sometimes, and sometimes you absolutely need your ice.
Wait, ice in the coffee? Or just...
No, it's just ice.
Oh.
Just ice.
Well, no, I'm not impressed anymore. Oh, real quick, I know I was going to say to you, going back to the intro, I finally started listening to Part of My Take again.
Welcome back.
But they use Electric Avenue. Do you think they paid to use that, or did they just use it?
No, so they talked about that a while back. So they use a edited version of Electric Avenue, and they pay for it from a guy that paid for the rights to this song.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So the guy that made the edit they use.
Well, they have the money to pay for something like that.
Dude, he makes Big Cat makes $2 million a year.
Yeah, because I listened to him way back when. And then because of you, I started listening to it again.
Yeah.
Especially with the Ravens and the poop, taking a poop during the game. I was like,
that was a good episode.
I have to listen to that. And so I forgot they use Electric Avenue, and I was kind of like, wait.
Yeah.
But they have the money for that. And then so I looked it up. I was like, I wonder how many people listen. And it says they make I don't know, $50,000 or $80,000 an episode or something like that. And they put out 3 or 4 a week.
No, they do 3 a week.
3 a week.
Yeah.
But this was in 2018 or 19, so it's probably gone up since then.
Oh, it has. You know what else they do that's really smart is they have their listeners once a month go in and unsubscribe and resubscribe to their podcast. and it tricks Apple Podcasts into bumping them up the rankings.
Oh, good Lord. That's
Yeah.
smart. That's some
It's
big
really
cap.
smart. Yeah, no, that's like old school Barstool stuff where it's like, no one listens to this, but we're going to trick people into thinking they do.
You know what? I'm going to get in trouble for saying I listen to Barstool because I'm on Unhinged Sports Network. I'm going to get in trouble.
Hey, listen, man, that Barstool's huge, especially like if you're looking at how to develop a podcast network, like they figured it out. Also, I'm frozen again.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
So much for that fast internet.
Yeah.
Well, I learned to turn my Wi-Fi off during this to help on my phone. So we're 15 minutes in, and we have talked about me getting sued. We've talked about Barstool. Oh, now I'm by myself. Well, that's all right. So anybody listening or watching later on, we've talked about Barstool Sports, talked about me getting sued. Coach West is going to join us momentarily. And then Brad's back.
I'm back. I don't know what happened there.
I know I was dark and I just went, oh no.
No, I was using these old crappy headphones, and I think it like every once in a while the mic on there shorts out because I've like sweated into it so much, you know. So I will just be going normal. I ordered a mic.
Oh.
What was that about? She hates my dreams.
Oh, I got in trouble too. It's fine.
Podcast is going to be moving downstairs or out there.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I was talking about Wi-Fi boosters.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a detached garage, and like the only way I can get phone signal out there from our Wi-Fi is to put my phone in the window. So like when I'm working in the garage, I can't have my phone on me. So I've been trying to figure out like how to boost our Wi-Fi signal out to the garage. And I don't know how to do it. Like they make boosters, but I don't know how well it would work.
Do you have unlimited? Oh, wait a minute. What kind of data do you have?
What do you mean? Like on
your
my cell phone?
Yeah.
It's just Verizon. I don't have unlimited data.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I have unlimited data, so like there was a point where we didn't have internet, so I just did hotspot because I had unlimited.
But I don't get very good signal here. Plus, it's a metal building, so like my actual cell phone signal goes to shit when I'm in there.
Okay. Yeah, there's a way to do it.
I'll be right back.
I don't know how much it costs, but there's a way to do it. So anybody out there listening, if you know how to boost Wi-Fi, let us know later on because I don't know anything about it. I know you can buy your own routers and stuff. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I'm not techie enough to figure it out. Actually, her dad worked in IT for the hospital down here. Probably would be the person to ask. Yeah.
Don't worry, I got in trouble yesterday too. It's fine.
It's just my perpetual state. Like I do something stupid and she's like, what the fuck's your problem?
Because you bought a mic.
No, I think she gets frustrated because like Sundays she goes into work early. So instead of like helping her deal with the dogs and the rest of the stuff, I sit on this podcast.
Good thing I live 4 hours away, so I don't get hit with a frying pan.
Oh, you just wait till the next time we come up there. I think she's got some choice words for you.
I'll have some choice words to say back. I'll still lose, but I got some. So we're 19 minutes into this, and we have not done our job.
Haven't talked about sports at all.
No, we talked about me getting sued, Barstool, Unhinged Sports Network. Go check out Unhinged Sports Network and Fanatics. Just go do it. Just go.
Absolutely. Okay.
I just put Ohio State versus Northwestern. I was impressed with Northwestern because we Was it me and you, or me, you and Nathan? I think we didn't shit on Northwestern, but we were just kind of like, oh, their offense is not very good. And then it looked good against Illinois because Illinois is awful.
Yeah.
But the first half, they looked pretty good, actually.
Okay, so Northwestern to me did that thing where it's like when they were in control of the game, like when they took the lead for a little while, they lost what got them there, which was like conservative offense, running the ball, don't get cute. And then they got cute.
Because was it the first half where they tried that reverse pass and it was intentional grounding? That was the first half. I kind of thought maybe that would be the key sign of like, hey, let's not do something like that again the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I say we were texting in our group text. It was real funny. Nathan said, I hate the Wildcat. And then I responded with, I know. And then they scored on it.
They immediately scored. And I was so happy because I was like, well, it worked.
No, like from a coach perspective, you use the Wildcat once in a while, goal line or up tempo. Like you get a first down or it's second and short, really short, and you just up tempo, go straight to it and run.
Here's the thing, like you should never run Wildcat while a defense is in their base set.
Right. It needs to be goal
They
line.
need to be like nickel to where you really have numbers, right?
Right. Like that one time they went up tempo with it and they ran a pin and pull with it and they got that first down towards the sideline. Like that's when you use it because they went up tempo. Ohio State was trying to flip flop to the strength and they just saw the weak side and just went that way. That's when it works. But I started to get annoyed when they would line up in Wildcat and go, la, 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 and then they go to a normal thing. At first, I thought it was cool. Then about the 12th time they did it, I said, that's got to suck for the quarterback because he's at a wide receiver and he's trying to read the defense from a wide receiver spot. Then he has to go back to quarterback and look at the defense again and be like, okay, what are they in? And like try to guess. I don't like when they did that the whole time. And I'm like, have they done that all year? Or is this just an Ohio State thing?
Here's the thing, like that's something that if Rod Smith was a competent offensive coordinator, Illinois should have done with Isaiah Williams. Play him at wide receiver, run some up-tempo stuff, and then the second they get into a nickel package, you run Wildcat, but Isaiah Williams is at quarterback.
Right, and that's what I don't like about Northwest. Like, I think that was another thing me and Nathan were saying. Like, Wildcat is cool especially if you have a pass threat out of it. Like, if that guy can throw the ball, perfect. That's the running back, one of the running backs, isn't it, for Northwestern?
Yeah.
And so you're right. Like, what if Illinois did that? Like, I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, do that with Isaiah Williams.
Or like, I thought that's how I thought Tim Tebow's career would go, was being a backup quarterback and going for a bunch of Wildcat stuff. I think that would have worked.
Should have been his career.
But he's the type of person that's like, I need to start. I'd be the type of person that would be like, you know what? You're going to pay me millions of dollars to go in the game 7 times.
He could have been better Taysom Hill.
Right. I think Tim Tebow would have been the perfect Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah. But remember, like the Broncos didn't have anyone. It was like Tim Tebow or bust.
Well, they had Kyle Orton, wasn't it? It wasn't Kyle Orton the quarterback, and then Tim Tebow came in.
Is it because Kyle Orton got hurt?
I think he got hurt or something, so Tim Tebow came in, and then you're winning, so it's like, well, can't take him out.
That's a bad argument. We've been over that before. It's dumb.
Well, they were winning, and then you're feeling pressure because he's Tim Tebow.
You're winning, but your quarterback's completing 3 passes a game.
So, as a coach, you're kind of like, we're winning. Don't mess it up. We can't touch it.
You can touch it.
Do you remember when they played the Bears and we were winning. Then our running
And
back
Barry
goes out of
Morgan
bounds.
won. Yes.
I was torn. I wanted the Bears to win, but I love Tim Tebow. But I was kind of like, as long as the Bears don't just stomp him, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and then I'm like, oh no. And then Tim Tebow leads him down the field to win. I'm like, oh no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
did you see that rumors are starting to fly about Pat Fitzgerald taking an NFL job?
yeah, they started a few weeks ago, and then now it's just ramped up. And guess who the first team they keep talking about is the Bears.
The Chicago Bears.
Now, I mean, we could talk about that before I shit on Ohio State. I don't know. I would love that as a fan to see him go to the Chicago Bears. 'Cause I think he would earn respect at the snap of a finger. The moment he walks in, he's going to get the respect. He knows how it works. But for his career, is that going to go well?
Probably not. Like, I think he is kind of like Harbaugh in the fact that, like, I think his personality would wear on players. Like, it works really well in college because you're only there for 4 years. But like, you saw Harbaugh really wear on some guys after a while.
But is Fitzgerald, I think, well, that's why Nick Saban didn't work out, because Nick Saban is a hard ass. And like, if you read anything on Nick Saban when he was with the Houston Oilers, he said something, and one of their linebackers got up and told him to like F off and this and that, and Nick Saban said something back, and they almost fought. Like a big linebacker in the NFL almost fought Nick Saban in the meeting room.
Yeah.
Because this guy's 30 years old, and Nick Saban's...
He was young at that point. Nick Saban was what, probably 34, 35?
30s or 40s, because Nick Saban's
Yeah.
68 right now, or 69
That
right
was,
now.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And if you read the book, I can't remember which, I think it's the one, Making of a Coach. I think that's the one where it talks about it. And they talked about how, like, that should have been the first sign that he's a college guy.
Yep.
Because the way he talks to him, he doesn't disrespect to college kids, but to an NFL player who's 30 years old making millions of dollars, he's kind of like, how dare you tell me that I suck or that I need to do this? How dare you say that to me?
Yeah.
Unless you're Coach Ryan from the Bears. Like, that's the only time it's like, okay.
Yeah. Whatever you say. And that was at a different time, too. Like, Buddy Ryan couldn't do that today.
Right. So I think as a fan, Coach Fitzgerald, I would love the Bears move. I think he could do well. I think he'd get the guys to play harder than Nagy did. I think Coach Fitzgerald's attitude is different than Harbaugh. I think he's very adaptable to where I can be a hard ass, but if that's not what's needed, that's not what's needed.
Yeah.
Because Harbaugh, you can see in an interview, Coach Fitzgerald is like all respect all the time.
Yeah. That was a bad comparison, but I couldn't think of another coach that like struggled to make the leap in the same way that I think he would struggle.
But he's doing well at Northwestern, so for him, it's kind of like, do you even risk going to the NFL when you're coaching at a school that you went to and you're doing well and you've got that team rolling, and they're a very disciplined team going back to that game. Like, they're very disciplined.
And if you're thinking about it, think about his job security.
Right.
He will never get fired from that job.
No. And I think after last year when they did so bad and he goes, this will never happen again on my watch, I think that was...
He called his shot. Did you see that? He was like, we'll be in the Big Ten championship game next year.
So I think because you're doing that type of stuff, I think for a career where I don't think money is his priority.
No, I think he's very happy coaching Northwestern, his alma mater, which is one of the few guys that works out. You know what I mean? Like, even high school coaches, it's a bad idea to coach your school.
Unless it's way later on.
Like way later on.
Like, because I remember when the Oakwood job opened up, I had thought about it, and I think
And you and I talked about it.
you and I talked about it, and I talked about it with somebody else. Now, this is no offense to anybody. Coach Craig, that's there. I know him. He's done a good job. I thought about it, and then I was kind of like, maybe it's not the right time. May never be the right time.
And admittedly, you had said some disparaging things about Oakwood High School pretty publicly.
But we're over that now. Like,
yeah, no, I think time has passed, but at the time, I think it was still a little too close to the vest.
I made people mad that I didn't want to make people mad because it wasn't about them.
Yeah.
I think we're not going to say who or what or when or where. I think we're over it. I think it's done. I think it's mutual. Like, I made people mad. I didn't want to make people mad because I actually respect them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I learned, to not say things anymore. But that was a time where the person I said it about said things about me, so I had to retaliate.
See, but that's the thing. That's like the biggest sign. Like, I've known you for a long time. And I think the biggest sign of like, oh shit, Steve, like, that was really fucking mature, is like, you're right. You used to be like, you don't talk about me. This is what I think about you. And now I think as a coach or anybody in public eye, like, you have to have that ability to just swallow it and be like, okay, and move on with your life.
Well, the big step was leaving the school I just coached at a few years ago, where I went through a bunch of stuff. Now, I've said some things, but it wasn't about anyone in particular. Well, okay. I haven't changed a lot. I've said things that were true. For example, I was a handcuffed offensive coordinator, and that's the extent I go with it, and I leave it at that. And I'm done. I don't go on social media and say, well, this X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I don't say, well, this person and this person. So that was another test of like, what do I do now? Because I could go back to what I did and said this and that. And I didn't. I went, shout out to Coach Walters at Lombardese. If it wasn't for him, I would have went right to that. I would have been like, well, this, and this.
Yeah. Nope, it's just not worth it.
No, it's not worth it. But yeah, going back to coaching your alma mater, not very many people go back. Look at Jim Harbaugh going back to Michigan. It doesn't.
And then when it goes wrong, it goes wrong bad.
Well, and then like Nick Saban went to Kent State, I think, and he went back there for a year as the head coach, and they did well, and then he left. I think he was just kind of like, this is weird. Like, I think it'd be weird to go be a head coach or an assistant coach at Oakwood again.
Yeah,
I find it very strange. Well, I wanted to be a head coach, and I thought I could have gone and done it. And I was like, oh, I know the area. Like, that's not the issue. Because when you're a high school coach and you go somewhere, even as an assistant, it's a new area, it's new kids, it's a new thing. You got to learn. I'm like, oh, Oakwood. I know how this works.
Yeah.
I think I had a shot to get it. Well, career-wise, I had a shot to get it. The bridges I had started on fire with, they weren't burned to the ground yet, but they were on fire.
They were still actively burning.
They were still actively burning because they're so long. Those bridges are so long. They were still actively burning, so I would have burned myself going through it.
Yeah.
But Coach Craig's done a great job. I know who he is. Great job. All right, time to shit on Ohio State. Justin Fields is overrated. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's athletic. He's good. But I had this conversation, or not conversation, post yesterday. I said he was overrated, and somebody said, he's a Heisman this. Look at what he did last year. He hasn't had a chance to prove himself. That's why I got told he hasn't had a chance. And so then I said, okay, hold on a second. And I'm going to ask you this. I said, okay, so you're trying to tell me, they said he didn't have any help. And I said, so you're telling me he needs these all-American wide receivers to look good? So that means he's not a Heisman. To me, a Heisman Trophy winner is if you took him off the team, they wouldn't win. Like if you just took Trask off that Florida team, I don't think they compete with Alabama.
No, not at all.
So to me, I'm like, so you're trying to tell me that's the same thing as Justin Fields? I'm not saying he's not good. He's very athletic, but he's very inconsistent. It's like there's times where he just throws dimes. Then there's times where it's like you just overthrew a post. Then there's Trask, who once in a while a throw was off. That's just every quarter. Peyton Manning was off. Then you got Trask is like dimes on Alabama.
Yeah, on the best defense in the country.
Right, in a big game where you just lost to LSU, and then you do that. And then at the end of the game, we'll get to that later, where he just got killed, and he gets right back up.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State is not as good as everybody thinks they are. Now, credit to Northwestern's defense. They have a good defense, but it's like, I think it's also Ryan Day's fault because he wanted to pass the ball. He wants to pass the ball. They're not air raid, but they want to pass. And then he started to figure out, if I run the ball every freaking play, my running back's going to get 320 or 30 yards.
Which, okay, should not take you that long to figure out.
No, that's Ryan Day's fault.
Like early in that game, it became very evident Ohio State could run the ball.
Yeah, coaches we outsmart ourselves a lot of times. And Ryan Day just kind of seems like, I want to do this, and this is what we're going to do, and he's forcing the issue. And then somebody in his ear tells him, no, look, we can run the ball every freaking play and just do it till they stop us.
Yeah. So is that like the offensive coordinator not having the balls to be like, hey, we got to change what we're doing?
But doesn't Ryan Day's the OC, though? He calls the shot. He calls the plays.
Okay, but he still has an offensive coordinator.
No, you have like an offensive assistant. So that offensive assistant needs to kind of say, hey, but here's the other issue when it comes to coaching. You have a role. And so I haven't been an offense coordinator in years. But I know when I was offensive coordinator, if somebody said, my first year, I always got told, hey, run this. This is how they always said to me, run this or run this. You don't say it that way. You have to say it in a way to get me to think about it.
Like, hey, this is open.
Or like, hey, when you are in this formation or when you do this, this is how they line up so X, Y, and Z could work. Yeah. Or like, hey, whoever your offense, like at Alabama, whoever their offensive analyst is could say, hey, 65% of the time that you've ran inside zone and power, we've gotten 8 yards. Like that's in college where this and that. So I'm not blaming this, but then at the end of the day, if you're Ryan Day, you shouldn't have to be told that because you were a good offensive coordinator under Urban Meyer. You shouldn't have to be told that. It should just be, I could see it from sitting at home.
And by the way, whoever their run game coordinator is at Ohio State, man, that cutback was open all night. And Coach West said that. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even realizing it, but like play side, they were doing a good job of getting in there and stopping that inside-outside zone, whatever the hell Ohio State runs. But that cutback lane was just wide open.
And the reason why it's wide open is because some people have to be responsible for Fields because he can run. So somebody has to stay away from that. So when they cut back, how do I explain this? So like if they're offset and they hand the ball off, somebody has to stay home sometimes for Fields. So when they cut back, they're staying there for Fields. And then the cutback, there's nobody there. Yeah. And so that's where I think Fields is good because he can run. I think it's just overall he's overrated. But yeah, Ohio State, it took you 3.5 quarters to be like, because I think Nathan said that in the text. He was like, if they run the ball every play, they're going to win. And all of a sudden they ran the ball 4 times in a row and scored or something. And so that's where college coaches and high school coaches outsmart themselves and say, well, I want to be exotic. I want to get in this formation. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Where sometimes he just needs to be like, you know what? I don't care. I'm the type of coach. If I was OC again and my running back got 7 yards a pop, I run the ball every play.
Yeah, make them. So, do you think part of it was also we want Justin Fields to win the Heisman? He's got to get his.
I do believe that's part of it. I think that because they ran, then there was another time where they ran the ball a lot, then they got into the red zone and they passed it. Which I understand you got to keep them off balance. You got to do this.
Yeah.
But that's where you call an RPO instead of calling a straight pass play. It's an RPO or a play action. Don't just call a pass play. Like that's where we outsmart ourselves again. And I do think a part of it was Justin Fields needs to get his. He needs film to go to the NFL, which, okay, I know that's part of their job.
And it's how you recruit your next 5-star quarterback.
It's how you recruit them too. And that's where I don't like the college game sometimes. I'd rather it be a team and say, this is how we win to get you guys a championship. And just being associated with Ohio State, just being associated being a Big Ten title for the 4th year in a row should be enough.
Should be.
But it never is. And Justin Fields already has enough film to get drafted. But guess what? You had your chance the first half when you looked terrible. And that's kind of where Ryan Day should be like, you know what? You had your chance. You look terrible.
In this game.
Right. Now it's, what was the halftime score? Like 10-6 or something?
Yep, 10-6. And he threw an interception in the end zone at the end of the half.
Right. So it should have been like, you know what? This just isn't your night. We're forcing it right now. We're going to go back to running the ball. And then once we get that established, play action RPO, and then it's your game after that.
Yep.
But no more of this. The only time it looked good was coach when Nathan said they score. No, that was Alabama. Never mind. I'm going to hit myself. But like that should have been it. But I don't think Ohio State's that good. And we'll get to that when we get to the college football playoff section. But people keep telling me how good they are and how dominant they are. They haven't had the opportunity. And I said, they've played 6 games. They've dominated shitty teams. The 2 teams that are not shitty was Indiana, and they won by 7, and Northwestern, and they won by 12, where it was a close game. Oh, well, they had 20 players gone. Then the excuses start coming out. Then don't play the game then if you're going to complain about it. Then don't play.
Yep.
And then somebody said, oh, Ohio State has more canceled games than the SEC. That's on the Big Ten, and that's a bigger issue than anything else. So a part of it is not Ohio State's fault. It's the Big Ten. There was no leadership. The Big Ten commissioner is being an idiot. Everybody that voted on it is an idiot and a moron, is what I'm going to say. You had nothing prepared for COVID, and it should have been said in there somewhere. If you have a cancellation, you should be able to go get somebody.
Yep.
If you're going to give them 8 weeks and have no wiggle room, it should have been that. Like, oh, Michigan canceled on you. Well, BYU's open. Go play BYU. We will allow it. North Carolina's open. Coast Carolina, they're open. Or Army's open. Or whoever, go play them. And that should have been in the thing. And it shouldn't be choose to play them. It should be no. If you have a cancellation, you have to go play somebody. No, like.
The worst part of this whole thing is now we have to watch them get shit stomped by Alabama, which we're going to talk about later. Let's not get into it right now. But this team is going to get blown out. That team would have gotten blown out by Florida.
Yeah, now if Ohio State was at full strength, their offense, I think, if they're at full strength and they actually have competent play calling from Ryan Day, they can compete with their offense. It's their defense. Their linemen and their linebackers are good. It's their corners and safeties that struggle because they're so used to NFL players. How many NFL corners and safeties have been drafted in 2 years from Ohio State? A lot.
Wow.
So that's their struggle. So when you go up against a Florida who's going to try to run the ball sometimes, be like, oh, we can't run the ball? Okay, we're going to pass it. And they're going to do it well. Alabama, oh, your linemen and linebackers are really good. We'll just pass it. You went up and we said this. Could you imagine if Northwestern had Indiana's passing game or vice versa? Indiana had Northwestern's run game. They would have beat Ohio State.
Easily. I think if you just put Indiana's defense is good. If you put Northwestern's defense on Indiana's football team, they beat Ohio State.
And we said this in the group thing. Like, could you imagine if Northwestern, and this is why we're talking about, if Northwestern had some wide receiver threats? Like,
that's the other thing. it became pretty evident in that game early on where they just didn't have the speed.
Right. Because Ohio State does the speed training that Coach West always talks about. Northwestern does, or Ohio State does that. And you see it later on in the game where they're still like not tired. Even with 20 players being out, they were not tired.
Which I feel like it needs to be said again. It was amazing to me. They like zoomed in on the field right before the game. There are so many white dudes that play for Northwestern.
A lot of Illinois kids play for Northwestern.
It is insane to me how good they are with a team of like 2-star recruits.
Well, because it's discipline, and that's Coach Fitzgerald. We're going to do our job, and that's all we're going to do. We're going to do our job and do what we can do, and we're okay.
And they're a really good football team.
They're very well disciplined. You don't see there's a couple penalties, but you don't see these huge penalties that are going to just absolutely destroy, unless it's like getting cute on play calling. Where now
they're much more disciplined than like. Did you watch Oklahoma, Iowa State?
A little bit. Like Oklahoma's undisciplined.
Well, so was Iowa State.
Iowa State's undisciplined too.
Yeah. Like Iowa State shot themselves in the foot and probably could have won that game.
If they would have won, someone said they could have made the college football playoff, and I still said no. But good for that program to be ranked so high, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything else. I'm so sick of watching Ohio State. I'm just sick of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any more of it in my life. Like, let them go to the Rose Bowl or whatever. But I just don't want it. I don't want any more.
Did you see they're not going to play in the Rose Bowl? They have to play in Cotton Bowl or whatever because they can't have.
California's on lockdown.
I thought our governor was bad. That governor is a whole nother.
Dude, that guy's a piece of shit.
Man, he looks at JB and he goes, "Hold my beer." I'm like, I got this.
Yeah. Well, no, the balls of him to like go out and tell people like you can't have Thanksgiving with your family, and then like 2 days later he gets caught in a restaurant with like 20 people eating without masks on.
Or that governor's luncheon where the waiter got mad and videotaped it, and then the governors got mad and forced the place to fire him. Like that is a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's not me being political. That is a factual thing. So anybody wants to argue me, they can go look it up. It's a factual thing that happened. Not making it up. It's not a conspiracy. It's actually happened.
Yeah.
And then one of the governors ate pizza with a fork. That guy needs to be judged.
Who was it that like lost the presidential primary because they ate pizza with a fork?
Is it the guy? Was it California or New York or somebody? I don't remember.
Somebody was running for president and like they went to New York and got a fork out and started eating a slice with a fork. I can't remember who it was.
The only pizza you eat a fork with is deep dish, like in Chicago.
Yeah, if you're at Lou Malnati's or whatever.
Or
which I'm sure I can picture that.
No, Illuminati's or Giordano's. If you're there and you got the deep dish, fork. If it's anything else, I'm going to judge you for eating pizza with a fork.
Absolutely.
And you don't deserve to be governor.
Yeah. Like if you're eating Monocle's pizza
with a fork, we take you out back and beat you with barbed wire.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Guys, this is not political. Everything we just said is factual. You can go look it up because it actually happened.
Yeah.
So this is not political.
God, they fired a waiter. What a douche.
That part is fuzzy. I remember them saying they did. Now, whether that actually went through, that's the only part that you could sit there and say, Steve, no. But I did see where they said he needs to be fired because they were videotaping them, which is a violation of privacy. But the waiter and the staff was saying, but how unfair is it that people out there can have their jobs, but you can have this luncheon and not be 6 feet apart? That's kind of where it happened. And I don't blame that person.
Like, as someone who very recently was working in the service industry, like, they just don't care. They don't care about these people that are just losing their jobs because they work in the service industry.
Right. Or like Pelosi getting her hair done, like that type of stuff. And that's
Now,
not
then, like, didn't she say like the hairdresser had gotten a COVID test?
the story was original. Like the first story was she called the hair salon, like her assistant called the hair salon and said she wants to have this, 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 and this done. Can you open it up to do it? But the rule was you can't have the hair salon open, or you can't do blowouts. You can't have the thing blowing the air. But they did it for her anyway. And the person felt really guilty about it, so that's why they came forward and said, "Well, I just broke the rules for her, and it's eating at me." And then Pelosi said, "Well, they set me up. They called me and asked me to come in and do it. That was the big thing." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Like it bugs me. Like even in my job when I was still doing counseling, my biggest thing is like I would never ask someone to do something that I'm not going to do myself.
Right.
Right. So don't like tell people they're not allowed to do certain things that are part of their life and then get caught doing it.
Right. And then the thing was, if it was really funny, this political, when she got set up, they were like, "You got set up, be smarter." Like,
Yeah.
and then what do you mean you got set up? If someone called, if the hair salon called you and said, "I'm going to break my own rules. I want you to come. I want you to come in so I can do your hair."
Part of you has to know.
First of all, that's never going to happen. That's like, I mean, it's 2020. I guess anything can happen. But then it's got to like, wait a minute. You being a political figure need to be like, wait, you're about to break the rules and open up and do this?
I don't know, dude. She's 80 years old.
Yeah, she
She
needs to
might
go.
she might just be senile and be like, "Oh, okay."
So we are getting political, but the stuff we're saying is factual stuff that's out there that happened, but we choose to ignore it. And that's why I like watching Tim Dillon, because he'll just call it out and be like, "Look at this." It's
Speaking
hilarious.
of Barstool, did you see Tim Dillon be like, "Well, Dave Portnoy's officially done more for businesses in New York than the federal government has."
I did see that. That's a
Which is awesome. Like, if anyone listening to this doesn't know about it, the founder of Barstool Sports went out and he started a fund for businesses that have had to be shut down to like stay open and save their business. If you haven't heard about it, go check it out. It's a pretty cool program.
I want to say this morning, and I could be wrong. There's almost like $500,000 right now. If not, well, no, wait a minute. I think there was like $1 million at one point before. And then he showed the numbers just from like T-shirt sales that he's donating, and that's like 400 some $1,000 within a couple days.
Yeah.
Because he's had enough too. Like he's not one side or the other, and I don't think we're all one side or the other. We're kind of like just do the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing and preach what you like. Do what you preach. And he got called out though, right? He got called out saying, "Put your money where your mouth is," and he was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, well."
And then he did it.
And then he's doing it, and it's a good idea. And then he said, "I'm not going to do what the federal government does, and like I don't really know where the money's going. I'm going to know where it's going. They have to prove to me that they're paying, and it's not just for the owner. It's this money is for paying your workers."
Yep.
And they have to show him proof that they're paying the workers. And then they're going to call the workers and say, "Are you actually getting paid?" and prove it. Like it's going to be this big thing, which is the right way to do it.
Well, yeah, because there are a ton of scumbags in the world.
Well, because the federal government was just kind of like taking people's word for it, which I understand. A lot going on to where you can't. I get it. But like you said, there was a lot of scumbags that were like, "You know what? I'm going to say I'm paying the people, lay them off, and keep the money for myself."
Absolutely. Yeah.
But anyway,
okay.
Speaking of money,
yeah,
Notre Dame, Clemson.
I'm gonna be right back.
Speaking of, oh hey Topher, are you taking over? All right. I think Jacob's watching. Dead silence. This is kind of where it's raw and uncut. So Notre Dame versus Clemson. It was ugly for Notre Dame. Hey, Topher, are you going to talk to me about Notre Dame? It was just ugly. I'll give you a shout out, Jacob. Yes, sir. I didn't know Trevor Lawrence was going to make that huge of a difference because the backup quarterback put just as much numbers up. Notre Dame was really worried about Trevor Lawrence running the ball, which shocks me because he can run the ball, but he's not Justin Fields running the ball. So I was very worried. Like, it confused me as to why Notre Dame's defense played the way they did. Like, oh, we have to worry about him running the ball, which opened up a lot more. But it just looked like Clemson, like, said we're Clemson and we're going to decide to play the way we're meant to play. And Notre Dame looked kind of intimidated after the first quarter. And then Clemson's defense. So I watched their defensive line, and people out there can call me an idiot. It looked like they weren't really trying to rush Notre Dame. It looked like the defensive linemen were trying to just read and hold up the O-line, which really confused them. And when Ian Book holds the ball a while, it's not good. So they were like, hey, instead of blitzing and this and that, we're going to drop everybody, only bring 4. We're going to hold the offensive line up and just kind of read what's going on. It really confused him. And their ends totally played to the outside. Don't worry, I was just talking to Jacob, our loyal fan.
Yeah.
So I was just telling him, we're going to go
Okay.
off topic. Clemson just beat the living hell out of Notre Dame. And I said this. Ian Book is good. I think we can all say he's good. He's not like Trevor Lawrence good, but he's good for Notre Dame. Did you watch how they played their offense this time around? They did not rush people. They had their defensive line just read what was going on instead of rushing up the field.
Are you talking about
Clemson's defense?
Yeah.
This time around, they just had their defensive line read what was going on. They told their ends to stay to the outside to push him in. Their interior, hey, just grab the offensive lineman and stay there. Because if Ian Book holds the ball for a while, he's going to try to run. And then we can get off the block.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did this time around. Before, they just kind of rushed up everybody, and Ian Book was able to get outside the pocket and do this and do that. And so when Ian Book looks confused, this is kind of what happens. Because there was times, if you looked at it, and I remember watching it, there was guys open, but Book was looking one way because he was getting happy feet.
Yeah.
And then Clemson's offense was just kind of like, we're Clemson. I never think as Trevor Lawrence as a running quarterback, but he can run. I don't know how.
I think it's weird. He's got that Terrell Pryor thing where he's really tall. Trevor Lawrence is 6'6", right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just never looks like he's moving that fast, but he is very athletic.
And it just looked like Notre Dame's defense was worried about that. That's what they played, and it just opened up other things.
Yeah.
And they should have just came
a first-round running back in ETN.
But I think also they should have just played the same game plan as last time, because that quarterback from last time put up just as big numbers as Trevor Lawrence, and that's where I get mad when people say, "Oh, Notre Dame only beat Clemson because Trevor Lawrence wasn't there." And I said, "No, what Clemson misses from Lawrence is checking the play at the line. He can read it better, and if there's a play he doesn't like, he can go to something else." And you saw that there was times where he checked out of something or did this or did that. He's a better leader.
Yeah.
That's why maybe Notre Dame won the last time. But when you talk about overall play, that quarterback for Clemson put up just as big numbers, if not bigger, than Trevor Lawrence. I also think Notre Dame just tried to do too much. They were kind of in the moment. And I think Notre Dame is this is why we don't play in a conference. Because if they didn't play in a conference championship, they'd be in the playoff. No question, there'd be no conversation.
What was the final score?
Oh, it was 38-3 or 34-3. It wasn't no, they scored again. Hold on. Because I got kind of done watching it. I was kind of ooh.
I did too. I checked out of it. And it was
34-10.
What?
34-10. So, I mean, It's bad, but it felt like it was worse. It felt like a 50-10, just the way it felt. So, I mean, kudos to Notre Dame only holding them to 34 points, I guess. But it just, I think that's why Notre Dame is probably like, this is why we don't play in a conference, because we would have been, no question, they would have been in the playoff. So I guess the question, people are already posting it. They were posting it like, this is why Notre Dame beat them last time, because Clemson didn't have X, Y, and Z. But my response to that was, you did have X, Y, and Z because you did this. So I just think Notre Dame wasn't prepared, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because that first quarter, they ran the ball decently and they were making good passes. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of was like, did Notre Dame or did Clemson just overlook Notre Dame the first time? Did they just not think Notre Dame was going to step up? I have no idea. Or did Clemson just adapt or adjust better?
Here's the thing, like, we've talked about this earlier on in the season. Like, Notre Dame is not multiple enough to where if they take one thing away, they can't adjust. Like, they do their thing really well, and they're built to do that thing. But then when Clemson comes in and they're like, okay, we're going to keep Ian Book in the pocket. What do we do now?
Well, I'm going to argue that for a second. I think Notre Dame is actually one of the more balanced offenses there is, because there are times where they pass it very well because they got tall wide receivers and tall tight ends. That kid is going to have a Northwestern degree or whatever and a Notre Dame or whatever. And then they can also run the ball at times because they have all those tight ends. How you beat them is if they do try to run the ball and they can't. How do I put this? I feel like if they can't pass the ball, they're okay with it because they can run the ball. If they can't run the ball and you have to make them an air raid team, that's where they struggle. If that makes sense.
That's what I just said. You just
No,
repeated.
but how do I put this? Like,
if you make them not play their style.
But their style is kind of, we've seen it where there's times where in a game they pass it very well and they run the ball very well. You take one of them away, they still do the other one pretty well. It's where they come down to play a team like Clemson, who is just as athletic, if not more athletic, and it doesn't work. How do I put this? It's very hard to describe this because they just didn't play well. When it comes down, I don't know how to describe this because it's like they're very well balanced. I think they're one of the more balanced teams. Besides Alabama,
they laid an egg.
They laid an egg. Ian Book didn't step up.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just Ian Book though. That whole team didn't look great.
Now, was there a defensive coordinator still there calling the game? Because I know he took the Vanderbilt job.
I don't know.
That was another thing I thought of. I think he is still there calling defense, but that could be a problem too. His mind is now at Vanderbilt. That's why I hate hiring coaches when they're still coaching.
But that's the problem is like the early signing period or whatever. You have to hire your coach now or else you're going to have a terrible recruiting class.
That's what I hate though. That happened to Lane Kiffin when he was the OC at Alabama or whatever. Before the national championship, he gets hired there, and Nick Saban said he could tell that his mind was over there, which as it should be. That's your team. That's kind of what's going to happen. And that's why he told to go. And so that's my question.
I'm going to put these dogs outside. Hey, cut it out. Well, you're going outside.
But that's my question for people listening is, was the defense coordinator even there? If he was, his mind somewhere else? And that's why I don't like some of the stuff of like hiring and this early signing and this and that. It's just, I don't agree with it. So I don't know. This is going to be a short conversation. Clemson just beat Notre Dame. They showed they were Clemson. They just beat them. Notre Dame didn't adjust well. They didn't step up. I don't know what else to say. They just didn't play well. They just didn't play well. I mean, kudos to Clemson. They got a better game plan. They adjusted well. Like I said, their defense adjusted. If they blitzed a little bit, they did. If not, they just said, let's keep Ian Book in the pocket. If we can play good coverage, we can get him thinking this is where it happens. You have to get Ian Book. Ian Book is like Mitchell Trubisky. You got to get him outside the pocket. You got to do zone reads. You've got to establish a run game to get him going. And that's just kind of where that comes down to. Yeah, see, this is the moment where Coach West would step in, but he has to get internet from his AOL dial-up. And then we talk about me getting sued for my intro. That's where Brad Dietitian money will come in to get me out of jail.
That's what it's for. Trying to decide if they're going to fucking behave themselves or not.
This is the most slapdick show today.
Mostly on my end. Real unprofessional on my end.
Well, no, I started it. I was so excited to do that intro today. I was like, oh, yeah, Steve, remember, click the intro and then click record. What did I do? Because we got into conversation. I was like, we just got to get going. Do that.
Yeah.
And then, like, what an idiot. I'm going to get fired. There's not much more to talk about this game, which is Notre Dame didn't play well. Clemson just beat them.
Yeah. Until we talk about playoff.
Right.
Yeah. So you want to talk Bama, Florida? Yeah.
Kudos to Florida because Bama was on a roll to like go up by 21 or 28 and just keep the lead.
I think Trask won himself the Heisman.
I think it's got to be him or guy from Alabama, not Jones. Yeah, it's got to be down to them two. Jones is good. He
is impressive.
Right. Jones is good. Don't get me wrong, but he's that type of guy where you have those weapons. If you put Justin Fields on Alabama, I think he would still like do okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think Justin Fields could handle playing at Alabama, though.
No, but like if you took Harris off and the wide receiver off and you put all on Jones, that's where we would find out now. But I will say this. Jones is doing what he's supposed to do. He's accurate. He doesn't get hit a lot. Kudos to Sarkisian calling plays. They keep tight ends in to block to make sure he doesn't get touched. He doesn't get sacked very often.
Mm-mm. And they keep tight ends in for pass protection and still complete passes downfield. I feel like most of the time when you don't put your tight ends out on a route, like every time I see an incompletion.
But that's kudos to Harris because there's a run threat. So you have to, because they could just do it. If you drop everybody when there's a tight end, you could just run a draw and hand it off to him and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now their linemen are really good too. We can't ignore that. And they're getting better as the year goes on.
Is their center, is he like out for the year?
I haven't seen anything if he's out for the year. He didn't look like he was crying in pain.
Yeah.
Because like normally when you think of a knee, you're thinking MCL or ACL, and they're in pain. Like unless he's the toughest guy I've ever seen, he was just kind of like, he was sitting on the car at the end of the game. He wanted to sit there and he was like cheering and doing this. Like,
yeah. You could tell, I know Coach West, obviously he's not here, so I'll bring it up. That team fucking loves that dude.
Because how often do you see the entire team come out?
Like the defense came out.
Right. Because normally it would just be the offense. Because he was on the cart and Nick Saban walked up to go say something and everybody just pushed Nick Saban out of the way. Like, hold on. And the whole team just rushes over there.
Yeah. Like that's some love for a dude.
He's a transfer there too.
Oh, he was? Yeah.
I think it's his second year there maybe. They said something he transferred there and it's his second year there or something.
That was cool to see, though.
It was cool to see.
Not that he got hurt, but see like that amount of love from the whole team for one dude.
But how good? I never thought I would say this. When you think Alabama, you think defense. Now when you think Alabama, you're thinking 50 points a game.
Yeah. Like, they have the horses to do that all the time now. And the thing is, their defense hasn't really taken a step back.
They gave up a lot of points to Ole Miss. Nick Saban's not okay with giving up those points. He's still a defense guy. You see he's fired up. But I think he's okay with it if it takes the team a while to score.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're scoring on the other end, like Urban Meyer said it best on that show one day. He was like, if you're Florida, you have to look at it and be like, we have to get 5 stops or win 5 times. Like, and if you stop them so many times or win these so many, like, how do you describe it? You have to get so many stops against Alabama. If you can get 3 stops and then you can score, you're going to be in the game. I think Alabama thinks the same way of like, if we can stop them 2 or 3 times from scoring, whoever we're playing, we're going to be okay.
Yep.
We're not looking to put up a goose egg. We're not saying we're going to hold them to 7 points. If we can just stop them 3 to 4 times, we're going to win.
Which in reality is like how all college football works now.
Yeah, but I think it depends on who you're playing. Like when people play Illinois, there's kind of like, well, just beat them.
We can put up a goose egg.
But when you're playing Alabama, it's like they're going to score almost every time they touch the ball. But Florida did what they did. They stopped them 2 or 3 times, and it was kind of like, okay, now we're here.
Yeah. If Illinois plays Alabama today, do they cross the 50-yard line?
No. Unless we do a fake punt.
Which we're really good at.
Well, that's our best offense.
Is fake punts. Like that Blake Hayes dude. It's unreal.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm
Did
distracted.
you see that thing I just sent you?
I haven't opened it yet. I saw you said something.
It's pretty funny.
I was trying to see if the college football show started.
Gotcha. No, it is so impressive what Alabama does week in and week out. But this is a little weird to say, but is it bad for college football?
For Alabama and Clemson?
Yeah, like having Alabama and Clemson be the way they are. Is it bad for college football?
I talked about this on another podcast because here's what we said. People are tired of it, of like Bama always being involved in the conversation. But at the end of the day, you're watching them in the championship, aren't you? Even if you're rooting for them to lose, they're bringing in ratings. So in the terms of ratings and money, no.
Which is very clear that is all that matters to the NCAA.
That's all that matters. And so technically, as fans, maybe they're like Roll Tide because I'm wearing it. But I'm a Nick Saban fan. So as fans, maybe they are tired of it, of being Alabama all the time. But then I think it's the same thing as us in Ohio State. People say we hate Ohio State because they win all the time. And it's kind of true. We're kind of jealous because we're Illinois. But maybe Coach West could also attend to this too. I think because we're Illinois fans, we're almost down to earth, though. So, like, yes, we're jealous of Ohio State, but we also see we can also not be blind and be like, look, Ohio State is not as good as everybody thinks they are. We're able to see that. Mm-hmm. Ohio State fans don't see it that way. Alabama fans are probably the same way. Like, oh, you're tired of it? Well, beat us then. That's kind of what it comes down to. Is somebody has to beat us. But the ratings are so high because if you don't like Alabama, you are going to watch the game to see if someone's going to beat them. So in terms of ratings and the actual college football, no. But as fans and people tired of Alabama, maybe yes.
So, but here's what I'm talking about. Like, the system is set up to allow Alabama to continue to do what they're doing. Like, Coach West said it before we started recording. Alabama signed 5 of the top 10 receiving prospects in the nation. 5 of the top 10. And I was listening to a different podcast the other day where they talked about lowering your scholarship totals
from 65 to go down.
Mm-hmm. And that would keep Alabama from these monster programs of Alabama, Clemson. Trying to think of some of the really those are the only two that hoard recruits. It would keep them from running everything all the time.
But is that kind of unfair? Because then if you lower the total, you're also going to hurt those other schools.
But think about it this way, you're hurting the other schools technically, but you're also those 5-star recruits can't all go to these two programs now.
Well, then what's going to happen is Nick say, I'm not saying this is going to happen. You're going to have Alabama coaches walk in and say, hey, we have good ties with this community college. You go to this community college for 1 year. When we have a scholarship open up, you got it. That's what's going to happen. So I don't think it would help. It would help. It would help community colleges.
I don't
It's
know.
changing the rule, kind of like what the Big Ten did with Ohio State. Going back to Ohio State. I understand why they did it. I got mad. I think it was Logan Lee, actually. He was like, they're doing it because they want the college football playoff money. It goes to the Big Ten. It helps out everything. I said, I get that side of it. That part I'm not mad about. I'm just saying they should have had it typed up that way when they came back to play. Because you should have known this was going to happen. But then it comes down to the NCAA president. Did you see the SEC commissioner say, well, I didn't know you only had to play 5 or 6 games. If that would have happened, I would have had my guys play 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you if the SEC has an 8-game schedule, they have bare minimum 2 teams in.
With undefeated teams as well.
Yeah.
You might almost be sitting there, if the schedule was set up a certain way, you may have Alabama and Texas A&M. Texas A&M might have been undefeated if they didn't play Bama.
Which, if you're Jimbo Fisher, you have every right to be pissed about.
Right, and that's and as you see, they asked Dabo Swinney last night, they said, so do you think, in your opinion, does Notre Dame deserve to get into the college football playoff after you guys just beat them 34-10? He said absolutely they deserve to get into the college football playoff because they played 11 games, not 6 games. He took another shot at Ohio State. I hope it's Bama and Ohio State, but I'm kind of like, if it's Clemson and Ohio State, Clemson's going to have some pressure, but he'll want to put up 50 or 60. He's going to be like, okay.
Yeah. I cannot wait for Ohio State to get in as the 4 seed and just get shit pumped.
We'll get to that. I'm going to hit myself. I forgot to talk about, I understand the Big Ten wanting Ohio State to have the opportunity because they want the money.
Which, by the way, helps Illinois.
Hmm.
The Ohio State going there helps Illinois.
Yeah, I wasn't mad that this happened. I was just mad of how it happened. It should have been there from the get-go. So it was more not going against Ohio State. It was more for the Big Ten commissioner, who is being a moron, and I'll call him out. I don't really care. That was just being idiotic. That you didn't think that a game was going to get suspended or canceled or whatever. It's COVID. That was going to happen at some point. You're just an idiot. And then
not allowing your schools to go schedule somebody.
And then it goes back to the NCAA president. It should have been, okay, guys, here's the guidelines. You have to play 8 or 9 games. If you don't play 8 or 9 games, you're not considered for the college football playoff. I don't care if you win the Big Ten. You're not considered. Is what it should have been.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a lot of things hey, we don't want to make the tough decision. You guys figure it out.
You realize we're talking about the playoff right now.
Okay.
You want to change subjects? Let's just go and talk about the playoff.
Oh, one last thing. Did you see where I texted and I said, did you guys see that? It was that 4th and 1. Alabama got into that tight set and their tight end was motioning and Jones looked over to the sideline. The tight end motions back, goes under center, and gets the ball and dives for the first down.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's where I texted that. I was like, "Did you guys see that?" Because they always motion their tight end like that, motion over and then shove back. So Jones was up there, and then he looked to the side to get the play. So Florida's defense looked too, and then he'd come back, went under center, took the snap, and went behind the lineman and got the first down.
That's an awesome play.
Stealing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as we're talking, they're doing the college football playoff show right now. I have it up on my phone, so just in case something happens. Hopefully I find out. College football playoff, we've been talking about this whole time. So Notre Dame or Alabama is undoubtedly going to be number 1. I think Clemson's going to be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So then it comes down to who else gets in. You two are on the train of Notre Dame not getting in because of how they played last night, which is a fair point because they talked about it. They said this thing is based off of lasting impressions. So the lasting right now, Alabama's number 1 as we're talking right now. They're 11-0, the number 1 seed. We're not shocked.
Yeah, no.
And we said this from last year. They are on a mission because they had to play Michigan in the Nobody Cares Bowl.
Yeah.
Clemson is number 2.
That pissed them off that much.
It pissed them off that much. But good thing for Sarkisian, like his play calling this year to put them in a good situation and doing what they're doing and how creative they are is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And good for him because going from Atlanta and going through that debacle, someone said this, Gus needs to go to Alabama and be an analyst because for some reason when people go there and become like an offensive analyst assistant, it just changes their career. Clemson's number 2. Not shocked.
Yeah.
They're taking their sweet time to tell us who. God. This is Ohio State is number 3.
What?
Ohio State is number 3. Coach West, get on the show.
2-4 really quick. It's going to be Texas A&M. Part of me thinks Oklahoma needs to be number 4.
No.
And I hate myself for that.
I think Florida is better than Oklahoma.
Did you watch Oklahoma yesterday?
Did you watch?
I watched Florida. I've been watching Florida all year. I love Florida.
So now the big question for number 4, is it going to be Notre Dame or Texas A&M? Are we going to get a Texas A&M Alabama showdown again?
If it's not Notre Dame will never join a conference.
If they did join a conference, which one should it be? Should it be the ACC or Big Ten?
Well, they already play basketball in the ACC.
Oh, they're just toying with us right now. They were like, let's look at it. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, or Cincinnati. Cincinnati gets in, I'm done forever.
Cincinnati's trash. Where is their score from yesterday? They almost lost. They won by 3 points to Tulsa.
Tulsa was Cincinnati again. Tulsa was impressive this year. I was really glad because remember when we were growing up, Tulsa was like really good.
Mm-hmm. They also have like an all-world linebacker.
They were one of the teams who wanted to play as on NCAA. Like if you were an offensive coordinator moving up in NCAA, you wanted to go to Tulsa.
Yeah.
Gus was an offensive coordinator there for a year, I think.
Was he really?
Yeah, he went from Arkansas to OC at Auburn, and then he went to Tulsa, I think.
Huh.
And came back. Oh, I said this. I'm going to ask you this before they show the 4th seed. What if Sarkisian goes to Auburn to be the head coach, and then Nick Saban hires Gus as his OC?
Ugh. Gross.
But it could happen.
I think Saban fucking hates him so much. There's zero chance.
Well, did you see what Nick Saban said about the firing?
What?
He defended Gus.
I'm sure he did because he whoops up on him 9 times out of 10.
But what if he does that? What if they just swap?
That would be pretty funny.
Could you imagine Gus is off? What you're seeing right now with Alabama, you would see with Gus a little bit. Gus would be looking at the chops like, this is what talent looks like.
Which, okay, now he would more be like, this is what an actual quarterback looks like, not old noodle arm Bo Nix.
This is what a run game looks like.
Oh my
Notre
God.
Dame is number 4.
Why?
They are
Why?
going to get curb. They have to play Alabama first. Clemson plays Ohio State, though. Dabo is going to have to put up.
That is okay. That I'm excited about. I absolutely don't want to see another Notre Dame Clemson game.
No, and that's the only reason why I was kind of hoping Clemson would win, because I feel like if Notre Dame won, I think Clemson wouldn't have made it. They would have put Texas A&M in. But I was worried. I was generally worried about a 2-3 or a 2-3 Clemson Notre Dame.
I think it comes down to money again.
Right.
Like, I think the committee knows that no one wants to see that again.
Right. So, number 1, Alabama will play number 4, Notre Dame. Number 2, Clemson will play number 3, Ohio State. Ohio State does not deserve to be in this playoff, playing 6 games.
Not at all.
If they were 8-0, I would maybe consider it a little more. But you're rewarding them for playing 6 games. Now, at the end of the day, it's not all their fault. It's the Big Ten. So it's not Ohio State.
You can only play the games that you have.
You're only allowed to do what your conference allows you to do. I just hate how it went down, like I've said a million times. Texas A&M is number 5. So
Texas A&M has every right now.
Jimbo's
furious.
Jimbo's going to be hot.
Yeah. And he has every right to be.
So I already know the answer from you. I kind of think Notre Dame deserved a spot just because you did beat Clemson. You had an okay schedule. You played more games than Ohio State. I think A&M should have been in over Ohio State. It should have been one Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Texas A&M, 4 Notre Dame. Now Notre Dame's going to get curb stomped by Alabama. I think any team that played Alabama is going to get curb stomped.
Here's my argument against Notre Dame. You barely squeaked out a win against a depleted Clemson team at home. And we just watched on a neutral site you get emasculated by Clemson at full strength. Again, neutral site. Okay. To me, that means more than the rest of your year. Okay. Texas A&M has lost 1 game against Alabama. Texas A&M looks like a better team now than they did then.
But then should Ohio State be in over? I understand the argument. That's why I said A&M and Notre Dame should be in, because Notre Dame lost to Clemson, who was a top dog, and Texas A&M lost to Alabama, who's top dog. Oklahoma is number 6.
Okay. If you just took it out of my mouth there. If Oklahoma would have blown out Iowa State yesterday, Oklahoma would have been in.
At 2 losses?
Yeah.
Over Texas A&M?
Yeah. No. I'm saying
You mean be Texas A&M and
Bama, Clemson, A&M, Oklahoma.
Oh, take Ohio State out of the okay.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Now, part of that is just I don't like Notre Dame. I've never liked Notre Dame. I won't root for them.
I'm gonna go put my shirt on.
But I think like we just watched you on, as fair of a neutral site game just get destroyed by one of the 2 best teams in the nation.
Clemson is closer to where they played.
Okay. Yeah. If you're going to make that argument, then join the Big Ten.
Oh, we're in it now. We're already in it. No,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see Oklahoma in there ever again.
Oh, I know. But watching them play over the last couple weeks, like I've forced myself to watch Oklahoma games. They look good.
No, I'm not saying they're not, but I just don't think they can compete with who's in there.
Not this year.
No,
I think next year.
but who would have known Oklahoma won because of their defense? What a back ass year where Oklahoma has a competent defense and Alabama's offense is just blowing people out.
It's 2020, man. Everything's upside down.
Coach West, are you on right now? I wanted to see his reaction because he was, guys listening, he told us last night and this morning, he is dead set on Notre Dame not getting to the playoff.
Yeah. He's somewhere screaming.
Oh, he just destroyed his internet. He probably took the box and threw it. Like, I don't want this anymore.
Not only did he destroy his internet, he's going to the grain silos to knock all of them down. He's like, I don't even want other people to have this.
Oh, so there's our thing. So,
is it bad that like I think you and I both love college football.
mhm.
There's a reason we're doing this show. This makes me I'm totally deflated.
If this doesn't prove that this playoff system doesn't work, I don't know what else will.
No. 8 teams. Who's ranked 8th?
I didn't even look. They just showed the top 6 and I exit out of it. But like that would be a decent playoff. 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Ohio State, 4 Notre Dame, 5 Texas A&M, 6 Oklahoma.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at the AP top 25 right now. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Wait, Cincinnati's ranked 6th. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Indiana at 7, Oklahoma at 8. They have Florida at 10, which I don't agree with. If you put that together in an 18 playoff, I'm all in.
It needs to be a lot. There's so many different ways to go about this. Was it Nathan that said 16?
Yeah.
An 18 could work. A 16 would work. I even said, because I saw this somewhere and I thought about it. If this top 25, if you want to do top 25 all the time, why can't it just be the top 25 then? If you don't make the top 25, you're not in the playoff. And then the first Alabama would get a bye. But then it comes down to how many games do you play. So here's where the NCAA and the College Football Committee will not do this. FCS, like Southern and Eastern and Illinois State, they play 9 or 10 games a season, and then they have their playoff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to give that up. They do not want to give up college teams not playing 12 games, even without their championship, because it's about the money. But I said, if you took the top 25, so let's say they play 9 or 10 games a year. I don't know, somewhere in there, 9 or 10 in a regular season. You make the top 25, you're in the playoff. But it's not bowl games yet. It's the bowl games can start for the bottom 25. Allow businesses to go get their bowl games to make their money. You still have something to play for. The top 25, you have to go wherever you go. So, like, could you imagine somebody going to Coastal Carolina to play a playoff game? What that would do for a Coastal Carolina school to get them on the map, to make some money for that school. It would help out schools and recruiting tremendously. So then you may start to see other teams get recruits instead of Alabama and Clemson. That may shoot it up.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of taking scholarships away, I think that could get them to do that. And then it gives more people the opportunity to make a playoff because it's top 25. Even that may be pushing it. Maybe it should be the top 16. But if you always rank top 25, at the end of the day, that means diddly shit if it's only the top 4.
Yeah.
And so I think that needs to happen.
And I think this year more than anything, it showed that it doesn't really matter unless you have name recognition as a program.
Right, because it's if Northwestern would have won, they're not going.
Fuck no.
Even if Northwestern was undefeated, they were not going because it's Northwestern.
Yeah.
Texas
I
A&M,
mean, we see that Cincinnati doesn't play the best, but they're undefeated.
and they're not a small school like Boise State and them.
No. And they play in a semi-respectable conference.
And that's kind of what pissed me off, again, going off of the Ohio State thing, was you're Ohio State. Yes, the money goes to Big Ten. It helps Illinois out. Congratulations. If that was not Ohio State, they wouldn't have done it. And that's kind of where my argument came in.
Yeah.
So there it is. Alabama's going to curb stop Notre Dame.
And then we get to watch Alabama Clemson part 15.
Now, here's the other interesting part. And me and Nathan talked about this before, and maybe you were here too when he said it. What happens if there's COVID and they can't play one of them? Nathan said the next team up should jump up. So, like, for example, let's say Ohio State has contact tracing and they don't have enough players to play. Do you force them to play? Or do you say, oh, you know what? You can't play. Texas A&M, you're up.
I'd be in on that.
But
okay, you're saying that with Ohio State. How pissed would you be if it's Bama?
well, that was my next point. Do you think the college football playoff committee be like, we're going to reschedule this game?
Yeah, exactly. Then you're having a different conversation.
I just said Ohio State because that was what we were just talking about. But, like, what if that did happen? What if Alabama has contact tracing and they can't play? Does that mean Texas A&M is up?
In all reality, I think they should take all 4 of these teams and put them in a bubble.
Yeah, like
Send them down to Disney.
Yeah, right now, today, go be put in a bubble. Do remote learn. Well, it's Christmas break, so
Yeah,
go be in a bubble.
they're not in class anyway.
No, they're doing remote learning.
Yeah.
Be in a bubble.
So then you get the game. And you do it at Disney, who already did the NBA bubble, so they know how to do it.
Well, that's because Disney is owned by China. And
Okay.
the NBA is owned by China, and that's why they went to Florida.
Yeah.
That's conspiracy right there. That's shout out
Yeah,
to conspiracy.
you just did a real Tim Dillon there.
Fake business.
Illinois plays Rutgers today, basketball. I just had to set that to record.
What time do they play?
Noon.
Oh, well, we're getting close.
Yeah. Okay. The rest of this just makes me sad. Like
I was really hoping Ohio State wouldn't get in, but I knew deep down inside they would.
Yeah.
So I had an argument for Notre Dame. I actually thought Texas A&M was going to make the jump.
Hate to say it. Nope. Because I want a different school. Like, give me a different school in the playoff.
That's why it needs to be changed. And they've already said they don't plan on it. And it's like, if you can't figure it out now, you're getting pushback from analysts that say it needs to be extended. Coaches are done. I think even Nick Saban's even talked about, like, it needs to be changed.
Well, he said that last year when he was on the outside looking in.
He said it before, though. He was like, yeah, this isn't working. Mike Leach has come out and been very critical about it, and he's never had a team close to making it. But he's come out and said, like, think about it for these bowl games, because Mike Leach is big on bowl games, because he holds his hat on the Texas A&M thing where he went to 10 straight bowl games. He holds his hat on that. Because he's like, or Texas Tech, they hold their hat on it. But he said now you have this playoff, and these teams know they're not going to a playoff. These bowl games almost don't mean anything because then you have kids sitting out because it's like, well, why? So I think those top 16 or top 25, you have the opportunity to play all year to try to get to the top 25 and have a better opportunity. Like it gives you a better option. And then if you don't make the top 25, that's where these other bowl games can come in. Out of an idea. The dogs did not agree with me. My prediction is Alabama will beat Notre Dame by 28, 30. And I think Clemson will beat Ohio State by 21.
Amazon guy just got here.
Did you see that Ohio State's in the playoff?
You believe that shit?
All right, we got to talk about it. Illinois hired a new head football coach after firing Lovie Smith exactly 1 week ago at this time because we were on the podcast and I looked down and I said, oh, Lovie Smith is fired. Coach, I'm going to say it wrong. I'm thinking about it too much.
Is it Bellama?
Bielema.
I'm going to keep saying Bielema because I've said it like that my whole life.
So he hired Coach Bielema as Illinois' new head football coach. He was hired. I guess they said it was technically Friday night, but it didn't get told to us till Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get into all of our conversations leading up to this, I do respect that he immediately called the Illinois High School Football Association and all that immediately and was like, did you see him say, I'm going to recruit people from Chicago, from the Quad Cities, all the way to Danville? Like, he knows. He understands. Not saying Illinois has these amazing football players compared to Florida and Texas, but like Lovie Smith never even once talked to the Illinois Coaches Association. He didn't want to do the clinic. Never even thought about it. And then you have people up here especially in the suburbs, they never even saw Lovie walk in the door.
Yeah.
And the Lincoln Way Easts of the world, there's this. Like, Illinois' offensive line was from all Illinois. I think they had a lot of Illinois players.
But I think Illinois' O-line coach actively recruited them.
Right. It wasn't. It means more to people to see Lovie Smith walk in the door than anything else. And then
if you're an offensive lineman in the state of Illinois, why wouldn't you go play for Brett Bielema?
Right. So, okay, we'll get to the criticism of me for this. And I'm going to defend myself. We're already an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm going to have to rush this. So I saw a report, I think, what was it, Tuesday? I said something about it, Tuesday or Wednesday. I saw a report that Coach Bielema was being talked about and interviewed. I immediately said if he was hired, I don't know if I was going to be an Illinois fan.
No.
Or I'd be done.
You said you'd be done, and you're ordering Indiana gear.
I still might do that.
I'll pull the receipts, Steve. I saved the texts.
Now, to defend myself, I think because the door was open, people keep saying Gus was never going to go to Illinois, and I think I knew deep down that was never going to happen. I just think, and I don't care who says this, you can't tell me the opportunity wasn't there to try to get Gus because he was going to get paid this money from Auburn, so money shouldn't have been a huge issue. And Gus, you have the opportunity to go coach against Michigan and Ohio State and Wisconsin. But then I also kind of thought deep down that Monken was going to get it because of Illinois ties. And so I think deep down I was like, okay, we're going to get Monken or Coach Sean Lewis from Kent State because he's from Illinois.
Or Leopold.
I wasn't sold on him. Like, a part of me was like, okay, because he's won all those titles in Division III. But a part of me was kind of like, yes, I wouldn't have been mad. I wouldn't have been mad.
And then we watched that MAC game.
Oh, he cost me some money.
Oh no, but I just watched how that team played, and I was like, "This is what we have right now at Illinois."
Yep.
It's 3rd and 5, and we're throwing a 3-yard out route.
Yep.
Like, I don't want this.
Yeah, like before that game, I wasn't mad if he got hired, but then watching that game, I was kind of like, you need to go with Monken, Coach Lewis, or try to get a coordinator from somewhere that is okay, like a decent school. That's what you need. Or Coach Campbell from Iowa State, if you can somehow pull him away. Coach Shillhouse shouldn't be a head coach yet, but like you need to pull him away. Now, going back to why I said Coach Bielema. Now, all of this is strictly opinion. There's no factual evidence of this. He got fired from Wisconsin, and
He didn't get fired.
Yeah, he did. He didn't leave.
He left for Arkansas.
I don't think. I think he got fired.
No. He left because he's like, I have a better chance at winning a national title at Arkansas than I do at Wisconsin.
Didn't he get fired?
Nope. Barry Alvarez doesn't fire people. If you're a coach at Wisconsin, you're a coach at Wisconsin for life.
So maybe my hatred was put in the wrong place.
Yeah. No, he left Wisconsin for what he thought was a better job at Arkansas.
All right. Well, now I need to really take a step back. So the reason why I said I didn't know if I wanted him was because it felt like I thought he got fired at Wisconsin. And so in my thinking process of him getting fired, when he was at Arkansas, and this is strictly opinion, it just felt like he was trying too hard and it was very stagnant. It wasn't this great thing. I'm not a fan of that pro style offense all the time. And it just kind of felt like he wasn't adapting to what he had. He was forcing that pro style at Arkansas, and he just didn't want to adapt. That's my opinion. There's no factual thing, but from watching them back then, that's just what it felt like. And then watching Illinois with Lovey, it was kind of like the same thing. Lovey was doing the same thing. And so I was very critical of it because Lovey brought in that freaking pro style his first year and a half, and it didn't work. It only works at Iowa and Wisconsin. Why? Because you get those big kids from the cheese and cornfield. And it works. But you're seeing Wisconsin do more spread stuff, and Iowa do more spread stuff. And so that's kind of why I was critical. And then he was in the NFL. So what happens in the NFL is pro style. So my thought process during this whole thing was, I don't want to see this pro style. We need more than just X's and O's. We need a culture. We need this. We need this. So part of me is like, don't bring him in because I don't want this pro style. Get Monken, that's going to build a culture. Get Sean Lewis, that's going to help build a culture, but also be this guy that's sprinting up and down the sideline and being excited. Bring in Campbell, that's going to bring a culture. Have Shillhouse be on the sideline, understands Illinois. I had all this built up in my head, and that's why I was very critical of hiring him. But I'm on board now. Now, hold on, Brad. You had the hook on me. Remember? We had the hook on me. Now I've been brought up out of the water. And I have to apologize to everybody because I put a lot of stuff out there. I'll apologize to Brad too. It was overreaction Saturday. Like I saw it and I said, I'm done. I can't do this because this is going to happen. Listening to him talking to other people, reading reports about him coaching the NFL and how he's changed. I'm on board. I overreacted. It was better than Lovie Smith, unfortunately. So I am now on board with this hire. Because he even said that he's going to adapt to what the game is doing, not adapt to what he wants to do. It's going to be adapting to what's going on. So I'm on board. Roll Tide.
Okay.
But you heard it here first. Brad was on board before it even happened.
No, okay. So my initial reaction, I forced myself to sleep in Saturday. So like, you ever like sleep too much and you wake up groggy because I got too much sleep?
Yep.
So I like woke up, rolled over immediately, like start looking at my phone. And the first thing is like I get a Twitter update that's like Brett Bielema hired as Illinois head coach. And I was like, I got to listen to Steve and Coach West bitch about this all day. And I give you credit for at least like coming around to the idea. It took Coach West all day. And then finally, by the end of the day yesterday, he was like, oh, I don't know. And then this morning, he was like, oh, I'm kind of in on this now. I'm like, no, buddy. Train's left the station. You're done. Like,
I came around to so I kind of slept in too. You know how I knew was your text. I woke up, so I slept in just a little bit after you. I woke up and all I saw was, what do we think? And I was like, what's he talking about? So I immediately open ESPN and it says it. And that's when I freaked out. So part of it was I had just woken up, I think too. I came around to the idea about 11 o'clock in the morning. I think I was kind of like, okay.
yeah.
Then I listened to him talk more. Then I did my research. I had other conversations with people, and I was like, okay, I think I'm on board. Then this morning he came out and said he wants to earn more of a spread power, and I was like, okay, now I'm definitely like I was on board before. Now I'm in a comfy seat, leaning back. I was like, all right, now I'm on.
So I appreciate the fact that you like came around to it. There are a couple things I'm really excited about. One, he was in the NFL. He spent time with Belichick.
And then he was on the Giants right now.
And now he was a defensive assistant with the Giants, which have you watched their defense at all this year?
Yeah, he coached the linebackers, and they're actually playing decent.
They're awesome.
I keep forgetting he's a defensive guy. He's not even an offensive guy. He's a I keep forgetting.
It's weird to think about because when you think about Wisconsin, you think about how good their offense was all the time. But I'm excited for him to go to the 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'm not excited about is, do you remember when the Bears switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4? And there was like 2 years there where they were awful. I don't know if Illinois has the players right away to play 3-4.
Yeah, I liked it because I do like the 3-4, but when you listen to him speak and read these articles, he says though he's going to adapt to what's going on. So just because he says they're going to run the 3-4, I think the 3-4 gives you an opportunity to actually add another. Because the Bears right now kind of play a 3-4. Khalil Mack is just that outside guy that can drop back or rush.
Well, I mean, yeah, they play a 3-4.
So
they play a hybrid 3-4, but
maybe that's what we're going to see. Maybe we're going to see where he runs a 3-4, but he's going to have that lineman. And so it's going to be next year's going to be rough because it's new.
I think so. Jake Hansen has one more year, right? He has the option to go to the NFL now, or he can stay for one more year.
Mm-hmm.
If he stays, our defense might be pretty good.
And he might convince them.
I mean, I would play for that dude. So what was I gonna say? There are other things that like part of me wanted a coach that like hadn't done it at a high level yet. Because we had that with Lovey, where it's like this guy's been to the pinnacle of football. He's been around. We know what we're gonna get with him. I kind of felt that way about Bielema at first. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh, wait, there are good things that come with this too. Like he understands how to recruit at a school that isn't sexy, right? Mm-hmm. He did that with Wisconsin. I think he can do that with Illinois.
And then he talked about what kind of drew him there was Illinois' facilities have increased. They have done better.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought that up. And then you saw my post where someone goes, Bielema, they said Bielema actually wants to coach at Illinois.
Yeah.
Brad Underwood said that. He goes, the good thing about him is that he actually wants to coach. Brad Underwood said that.
Like, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see if he can bring that culture. Because, like, I remember his Wisconsin teams being, like, tough, hard-nosed football teams, which Illinois hasn't had ever. It's been a long time. You know what I mean?
Well, and then we keep forgetting he played at Iowa. So he played against Illinois. He played against them because they were Kirk Herbstreit was talking to him and saying, like, when we played in the Big Ten, Illinois was good, like back in the day.
Well, yeah, that he even said it. He was like, you had Simeon Rice on that defense. Like, Illinois had some players. And, like, we haven't been like that in a long time. We have our, every once in a while, really great defensive player. But other than that, it's just been, Illinois football.
Right. We have these spurts where, like, in 2007, we beat Ohio State when they were number 1 in the nation, and then we'll drop an egg to somebody. There's been spurts. We beat RG3. People forget about this. Illinois beat RG3's Baylor team in a bowl game with Nathan Schillhouse at quarterback. People forget about that. So we have these spurts until Beckman showed up. And then it just kind of
went away.
And then Lovey did the same thing. It was like, we suck. Now we have 18 freshmen playing. Okay. Then we get some spurts. Then we beat Wisconsin. Then we play in the Red Box Bowl so people can get their movies while they're watching Illinois lose to Cal. Oh, we're supposed to be really good this year because these freshmen 2 years ago are now juniors and seniors. And Brandon Peters grows a mustache. Like, it just wasn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited for Bielema. I think it's a good hire. The only thing is, like, rumors started to fly late yesterday about, is this just him getting back into the Big Ten so he can eventually coach Iowa?
Yeah, I hope not. I hope he's not just saying the right things because he does seem like he's excited to be at Illinois. I think he's excited to just get back to college football.
Mm-hmm.
Because what worried me about this was when he got fired from Arkansas.
Yeah.
He immediately didn't get another college job. So that's the part that worried me. But it's also exciting because maybe because he talked about he had to adapt. He's going to change. So maybe I was onto something in Arkansas where it was just very stagnant and he didn't want to adapt. So he didn't get hired. He went to go learn under Belichick. He went to the Giants, and now he's back. I hope he doesn't leave in a year or two to go to Iowa.
I hope so, too. It also really excited me that he was like, every member of my staff will be actively recruiting. Because I think the thing that is making the least amount of news that should be making the most is how terrible Illinois' recruiting program has been under Lovie Smith.
It's coming out now, but it should have came out long ago, but it's coming out now.
Which is a failure. I love Josh Whitman. I think he's a great AD. It's a failure on his part. How the hell do you not see that going on and go, what? You know what I mean?
Or was he just blinded because he brought in Lovie Smith? So maybe he was just kind of like, oh, he'll fix it. I have to, like, and then does he not want to be the AD that's micromanaging what that coach does? Like, let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was brought up and we don't know. Maybe it was.
That is the thing I'm excited about with a college coach that has been a college coach that knows how to, like, kiss hands and shake babies. You know what I mean? Like, Bielema knows how to, like, he scored a lot of points with 2/3 of this podcast by immediately calling the head coaches, the Illinois Coaches Association. And did you hear him on that call? He was like, if there's a college level player in the state of Illinois, they should be coming to Illinois. I was like, where the hell has that attitude been? Because I see a lot of Illinois guys going to other colleges.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is there's this people think Illinois doesn't have good players because I talk to coaches who are from Georgia, from Florida, from South Carolina, that's where people recruit, Texas. But then Lovey was trying to force the issue of, like, I love Texas, I love Florida, we're going to recruit them. Well, they don't want to come to Illinois. You have to be realistic on what you get. Wisconsin did that. He knew, I'm going to get Wisconsin kids. I'm going to get Nebraska kids. I'm going to get these northern kids to play hard-nosed football because that's what we do. And I understand that this is what I'm going to get. I'm not going to go to Texas. Some might come to Wisconsin, some might come to Michigan, but it's hard sell to get this 5-star recruit from Texas and Florida to say, let's go play at Illinois where it's 20 degrees. Where this kid also may say, you know what though, I can go to Texas A&M or Texas Tech or Florida or Alabama and be warm.
Be warm and play for a better school.
Right. So I think he understands that he at least needs to try. If he doesn't get the Illinois recruits, he has to put out the effort of like, I'm coming to the school. I'm really promoting the University of Illinois because the school in Illinois is Northwestern because all you hear about is these Illinois kids. And then what also hurt Lovey was when we're going through this COVID thing, Fitzgerald came out and said, you know what, if we're going to play college football, why can't high school at least try to work it out? Like he was fighting for it. And he shows his face at these high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom Allen from Indiana comes to our Illinois clinic online and is like, I want to go talk to these guys. Good for him. That's recruiting right there. That's big time.
Yeah, because if you're a high school coach, who are you going to send your kid to go play for? Lovie Smith, who won't talk to you, or Tom Allen, who is energetic and you can tell is going to love your kid.
And then look at the successful coaches. Dabo recruits up there. Nick Saban has a relationship with all the Alabama schools. Like these guys that win have relationships. Not saying Illinois has these amazing, amazing athletes like Florida and Texas, but there are some good football players in Illinois that just get overlooked. And people don't think, when they think the state of Illinois, they don't think of the University of Illinois. They think of now all of a sudden it's going to be Northwestern. They think about Illinois State because they compete now to go to their playoff. People think Illinois State.
Yeah.
That's what they think.
I mean, SIU just signed three-star linemen from the state of Illinois. SIU did.
Jimmy G went to Arlington Heights up here.
Yeah. Like, we've lost out on way too much Illinois talent. And I'm glad, hopefully, that's coming to an end.
And then I'm on board. I'm in the seat. To get me to recline it and get my feet up, I want to see who his staff members are. I want to see who he brings with him. Because is he going to bring in his Arkansas, Wisconsin staff, or is that just too far apart to where he has to know? Maybe he brings in Shieldhouse, not to be the OC, but maybe he does bring in somebody like that to say, now look, I'm bringing Illinois guys who had success at Iowa State.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see who the OC is. You think Gus could be the OC?
Stop with Gus, dude. I don't know. I'm excited again. I'm excited to see where the program goes. I'm a little worried at the same time because I watched Wisconsin lose so many heartbreaking games where it's just like they're fifth in the nation. They're really good. And then they like get beat in the Rose Bowl by TCU.
But that comes back to, is he more of a coach? Is he a better coach now having these experiences where he adapts to not have that happen?
I mean, he did the NFL version of going to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He went and spent time with Bill Belichick. Like, and then did a really good coaching job for all intents and purposes with the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going through and looking stuff up, there were a lot of people that pointed to him as helping to turn the Giants' defense around.
Yep. Now, you brought up a good point. I'm excited. You're excited. I do think Coach West is excited. Even though you were first, I came in afterwards, and he's still – I don't even know if he has a seat yet. He's in the standing only section.
Yeah, he's waiting to board the train. Right.
I think you're up near the conductor in first class.
I'm driving the train.
You're driving the train. But what scares me is we're kind of saying the same things when Lovey was hired. I don't know about you. I was really excited about Lovey being hired. Because remember, that was exciting.
It was exciting because it was so out of the blue. And I think now I just like I know who we're getting here. You know,
because we were getting a NFL guy, now we're getting a college guy.
College guy that understands college, and I think he understands like how important it is for which we talked about this last week, how important it is for the community to be behind the team.
Right.
You know, and I think Bielema has a certain swagger about him. Like, have you ever seen a photo of what Brett Bielema looked like in college?
Mm-hmm. He's
a big fat dude now, but you can tell he's got swagger.
He's got swagger, and I think he can relate better to these kids than everybody gives him credit for.
Yeah.
Like, he knows how to speak the language. Like, and that just goes to him adapting. It's not I hope he pulls a Nick Saban. Not saying we're going to go on the string of winning championships, none of that. But Nick Saban adapted. He was running that pro style, this and that, and he kind of adapted to what the kids do. Social media. Oh, this isn't what's going on in college football right now. Like, he's not going to force this thing to happen.
Yeah.
I think coaching at Arkansas has opened his eyes a little bit going through that experience. And I think going to the NFL opened it up.
I'm with you in the fact that like I will love to see who his offensive and defensive coordinators are. I'm interested to see if he retains any staff.
The only one I could see, there is a coach on there from East St. Louis. I can't remember his name, and I apologize to that coach. Huh?
Is he a D-line coach?
I can't remember. I could have told you, like, I had this conversation about 2 weeks ago. I could have told you. I can't remember. So I apologize to him, but I think maybe a coach like him you keep because he helped get Williams there. Williams had a good attitude. They asked him about it. He goes, we are behind it 100%. We're going to play hard for who comes in here. Like, right attitude. So I think he might keep a coach like him, but a part of me might think he cleans house. I think he might get rid of everybody.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No. Like, did you watch the Illinois game at all yesterday?
Yeah.
They looked competent the first, offensively anyway. They looked competent until they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was the players came in. They're like, I think they had to have known Bielema was there.
Oh, they knew he was there.
So they balled out for a quarter and a half. And then it's like, oh, wait, this is Penn State. Even when they're bad.
You couldn't miss. It was funny. Bielema on his way there, decked out in Illinois gear. He immediately had that hat and the face mask. He was good to go. You know, you can't miss him. Big guy over there in the blue, like you can't miss him.
Mm-hmm.
When nobody's there, no fans are there, you can't miss him.
Yeah. I want to hear him talk some more.
I think it's today or tomorrow he's going to do a press conference. I think it's tomorrow.
Gotcha.
I think that's where we're going to find out more about what he's thinking.
Yeah. I just want to hear more about his vision for the program. Like, he's doing and saying all the right things right now, but I want to know, like, the nuts and bolts of it. I want to know who he's interested in hiring as coordinators. You know, I want an idea of, like, what he's bringing in from the pros that he might have learned, you know. Like you said, what he's learned and is going to change about how he dealt with Arkansas.
The other thing that I'm worried about, now that you've said it, Lovie Smith brought in a lot of NFL coaches at the beginning, and it didn't work. So I don't want to see this coaching staff come from the NFL and try to adapt to this college game. I want to see him hire some college coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they are in the NFL right now, but they were kind of doing what he was doing, where they were in college, now that there's assistant to the assistant to the assistant in the NFL, maybe he brings them back. That's fine. But don't be trying to bring in an NFL OC or this or that. Like, get some college coaches. to adapt to these college kids.
Yeah.
Don't bring in this NFL crew that doesn't adapt well, because that coaching staff, when Lovey hired him, I was excited. I was like, oh, this experience. And then we actually saw what was going on. You're like, ooh, they cannot adapt well to these college kids.
Yeah. It's a different game.
Like Nick Saban can't adapt to the NFL players, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Look what he does in college. That's perfectly fine if you can't.
Yeah. You learn and change, but some people can't. Like, I think Lovey was just at the age where it's like, he is the coach that he is at this point.
He's an NFL coach. That's what he is.
Yeah. Recruiting did not interest him at all.
No, it's different to scout people and say, draft him, sign him, trade this. It's easier for him to evaluate a player that way than recruit. But I am excited. Bielema's saying the right things, so I hope it's true. But he does seem really excited to be at Illinois from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And then Nathan.
I don't think Whitman would hire somebody that wasn't all in on Illinois.
Right, I agree. And then I think Coach West said the same thing. Now, if this backfires here in about 4 or 5 years, Whitman will be gone too.
Now, that depends on if Underwood goes to a Final Four, he will get the third chance to hire a football coach.
True. The basketball has kind of saved him. Lovey's name saved him for 3.5 years. And then the bowl game kind of eased it a little bit. And then this year it just kindled again.
Yep.
So luckily, but I do like how Coach Underwood called him. Bielema immediately called him. I was like, let's build a relationship right now. Yeah. So I'm glad to see Coach Underwood and him build a relationship. That's what you need. And I just love how Underwood was like, he actually wants to be here, like me. Like, we want to be here right now.
Yeah.
And then Coach West would say this better than me. I also want to see who their strength and conditioning person is.
Yeah. Are we going to be big and slow, or are we going to have some speed?
Because we can talk X and O's, recruiting, all we want. Northwestern, nothing against their guy because he's crazy. Their strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
He had a good point. He was like, they fill the sleeves and you start to see Ohio State's speed and what they do come into play. You see Alabama's speed and what they do come into play. You're seeing Indiana come in and see what they do. So is Bielema going to just – nothing against Lou – is his name Lou in Illinois?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He was the strength and conditioning coach for Ron Zook, too. And so I'm curious, does he keep him, or does he actually look at what Ohio State does and say, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm almost more curious about that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think he understands that the game has changed, and he's going to change with it.
Coach West would have been perfect for that topic, but he wants to be on his MySpace.
Dial-up internet.
Let's get on AIM Messenger right now and send him a message like, what are you doing?
Yeah. All right. Do you want to finish this up by talking basketball?
Sure. We're already 2 hours and 13 minutes in. Why not go 4 hours or 5 hours?
So, Illinois basketball bounced back.
Is Wisconsin or Minnesota?
Minnesota. Awesome game. Curbelo had a great game. Kofi had 30 points.
Was that a Shaq game? Like he's coming out as the mini Shaquille O'Neal?
Here's the thing, though. Like, the dude has to start making free throws.
Free throws and catching the freaking basketball in the post.
The whole team sucks at free throws.
That's going to be our Achilles. Our Achilles heel is pick and roll defense and free throws.
Yeah. And I don't see it improving. Like,
No.
We'll see today because we're playing at Rutgers, and Rutgers is, I think, 16th or 19th in the nation. They're ranked
19th, and right now we're up 17-13.
Okay.
And we're 13th in the nation?
Yeah.
Dang. That's all right. I think We've lost, 2 games? A part of me thinks they have to do that, like, wake up. What I'm interrupting you, but this is what pisses me off about Illinois basketball so far. They play a big game, and they do good. Then they'll play the next game right after a big game, doesn't matter who they play, and they don't. Nothing against Missouri, they balled out. They balled out. But it's like, you play a big game, Illinois, and then the next game you don't.
Yeah.
Do they just play to the competition? Yeah.
And I think part of that has to fall on Underwood, but I think the other part of it has to fall on Io. Because, like, if you're the undisputed leader of this team, like, you got to tell some of your guys to wake the hell up. You know? And if we go into some of these games flat, like we did against Missouri, like, Iowa will put up 150 on us.
Right. Underwood and them have to instill that we're good. We are very good. We're Elite Eight, Final Four good. But to be that good, you have to play that way all the time, no matter who you play. You could play a community college. You need to go out there and just curb stomp them. And we don't show that all the time. We showed it against Duke. Baylor, we showed it a little bit up until we just couldn't no more because Baylor's just on a different speed level.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do that all the time. Think back to like when Kansas was really good. That's what they did. Dukes, they do that. Like, that's what you have to do all the time.
Yeah.
You can't just pick and choose when you want. So part of me is kind of glad we lost 2 games because hopefully it just kind of like, hey, that we can lose. Because like we almost lost to Ohio, but I don't know if that was a huge wake-up call like I thought it was going to be. Because they won. They're probably like, oh, we won. It's fine. Who cares? And then you lose to Baylor. Okay, well, then you beat Duke. Congratulations. You want to make Coach K quit. Not me. And don't ever call me Coach K. It's not me. Like, you have to play that way all the time. And if you don't win by 20, it's okay. You can win by 10. I don't care. If we beat Duke by 10 or 8, I would have been okay. I'm like, but we won.
Yeah, you still won at Duke.
Right. If you play at an elite level against elite teams, that's fine. But then now Rutgers is no pushover now. So if you win by 5, you win by 5. As long as you're winning and you're playing at a high level, it's going to be okay.
But they also did something. Mute me really quick.
I'm going to get fired from the Unhinged Sports Network.
Okay. They also did something that I haven't seen an Illinois team do in a long time, where it's like, we're better than this other Big Ten team. We're just going to put you away.
Right.
And they did that to a Minnesota team that isn't terrible. Like, and I hate Dan Dockich. I hate when he calls games because he just talks about nonsense.
Right.
All the time. I heard more about Indiana basketball or football than I did about Illinois basketball during that game.
We're not even in Indiana right now, fool.
Yeah. One, we're not in Indiana, and you're calling a basketball game, not a football game. Like, but then I think Illinois' defense almost made number 11 quit.
Yeah, the defense finally stepped up is what happened. It finally, like, that's what we're missing. We're missing a defense, and we're missing free throws.
Yeah.
Like, consistent defense.
And I think there's going to be a big thing about foul trouble because you saw Coleman Hawkins come in for a little while and be serviceable as a 4. But I don't know if he'll be able to do that consistently. Like, we need Kofi and Bishanishvili to, like, stay out of foul trouble.
Well, that's where you have to play better defense so they don't foul. Like, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you two would, I don't know. It seems like sometimes we're too worried about scoring. Like, we'd rather do fast breaks and try to score than play defense.
Yeah.
So hopefully the Missouri game was a wake-up call of like, we have to play defense and rebound.
I don't know, but Bashashvili is now like it's well known that he's gonna get some fouls on the offensive side.
Mhm.
Like more than should ever happen. Which sucks, but I think we all just need to know what's gonna happen now. Because in that game the refs were looking for it.
But a positive is we do have a bench.
We do have a bench, and it's awesome. I think people were calling for Curbelo to play over Trent Frazier, and I'm out on that. Like, Curbelo's in the perfect spot right now.
He's the Energizer Bunny you want coming in.
Yeah. And he is just, like, so in your face all the time.
And he doesn't
Like-
talk trash. Like, he's in your face, and he's just going to play.
Yeah. And he's so fun to watch.
Right.
Like, he's out of control all the time. He keeps doing that thing where he gets double teamed and goes behind the back, and it gives me a heart attack every time, but it works like 80% of the time. He is one of the better passers I've seen at Illinois.
But
in
a lot,
time.
a lot of elite teams that win have a guy like that come in at some point and just do their job. But you're
Yeah.
right, if he does too much, that's where it's a problem. But if he can learn to just do what he does, they have guys like that. Unless you're Baylor.
Yeah, which if I'm Kofi, I think I would rather play with Curbelo than I would Io.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be set up for plays.
You're going to be set up for plays, and you know there's a guy that's going to guard the ball up by the three-point line to allow you to get that rebound because they're going to push him so far back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think I don't know if, like, during that game, Underwood wanted them to get it going from behind the arc, some of those guys. But there were some times where Kofi was, like, in the restricted circle, basically underneath the basket, boxing his man out, and they didn't get him the ball.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because we don't really have a post game throughout up until then. Because I've been saying that all year. There's been times where we need to get the ball in the post.
Yeah.
What did Jacob say? Curbelo is an excellent replacement for. Yep.
He is.
Jacob's been waiting for this point Jacob's been waiting for this point of the show, and we've made him wait 2 hours.
Yeah. Curbelo has the ability to be a better version of Feliz, which is awesome.
And you and Coach West say it every week. That relationship with Underwood is just unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited to see that continue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I think Feliz will be a 4-year guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of glad about Underwood is he's keeping these guys. There's a reason. Now, they're staying because they have a chance to win, but I think it's also because if this was Bruce Weber or somebody, I don't think they'd stay.
Yeah, I think the players play for Underwood.
And he instills that. That's why I kind of hope Bielema's like this. Underwood preaches Illinois, 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 Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Bielema does the same thing. So I think that's what Underwood does is like, it's not me, it's Illinois, Illinois, Illinois. And he has instilled that of like, I'm here for good or like as long as I can. And this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so nice to just have an Illinois team that's fun to watch. Because we haven't. We went through a long period of time where, like, I would watch all those Illinois games, but they were just brutal.
Yep.
They were like, rip your soul out because they're going to make you believe in something for small chunks of time and then just take it away from you.
More than football, more than what football would do. Basketball was like, look, we're competent because we were so happy with that 04 season, 05 season. And then throughout that time, we were still competing. And then and then there was a little bit of a spurt and then it comes back down.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
what was it? I liked Bruce Weber. Don't get me wrong. It was just kind of one of those things where the end of his career was my way or the highway. You know, he's kind of like, I'm not adapting to the players I've recruited. It's this way. I liked Bruce Weber.
Yeah.
And then who was after him? Gross. Was he hired after him? I liked him though, but
I like John Gross, but his problem was like John Gross has the same problem that Shaka Smart does. And I've said this before. It's like his system works really well at like a max school,
right.
you know, and it doesn't work as well when you have to play a Big Ten team every day all winter.
Because he came from Butler, didn't he?
No, he came from Akron. No.
Because he was an assistant at Butler, wasn't he?
No. Where I gotta look it up now. But anyway,
Where did he go after Illinois?
He's back in the MAC somewhere.
Okay, he was a head coach at Iowa or Ohio.
Ohio, that's where he was. Yep.
Then he came to Illinois, and then he's been at Akron.
Yep.
His career is 235 wins and 172 losses.
He's not a bad coach.
No, at Ohio. Oh, so at Ohio, he was 85 and 56. Then Illinois, 95 and 75. And then been 55 and 41 at Akron.
Which they do really weird, like Akron, like LeBron James comes to their practices and shit.
Now, can I just say something? I wasn't way off. He was an assistant at Butler in 2001, so I wasn't far off. I knew something with Butler at one point.
Yeah.
He coached at Ohio State for 1 year.
Really?
So in 2005 to 2006, he was an assistant Ohio State coach, and then 2007 to 2008, he was an associate head coach at Ohio State.
Whoa.
And then head coach at Ohio, 2009 to 2012, then 2013 to 2017, Illinois. Then ever since then at Akron. Oh, okay. I saw Danville, and I was like, wait, what? No, his hometown is Danville, Indiana.
Oh. It's interesting.
I got excited. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Not like what's his face from Hoopston that coached at Ohio State. Yeah. He's got a rock outside of Hoopston's high school. Nice little rock.
I was about to say, he played against my uncles. They were like all in high school at the same time. And they all hate him.
They all hate him, and now he has a rock. People that don't know, Hoopston Corn Jerkers. You want to talk about a mascot name? Corn Jerkers.
I just explained that to my girlfriend a couple nights ago, and she looked at me. She's like, what are their names?
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I ain't hating, because anytime I see anything on social media about mascots, I'll say the school I'm coaching up, and I say, but you need to go look at Hoopston Corn Jerkers.
Yeah. Go look at Hoopston, Illinois. We have a couple weird ones down here, too. We've got Centralia's, the Orphans.
We played them when I was at Charleston.
Yeah, and then their women's team are the Orphan Annies, which is real cool. Teutopolis.
The
wooden shoes.
Yep, that's right. My technical was T-Town.
Yep, T-Town. There's another weird one down here. I can't remember what it is.
You guys have, I don't know if it's down there or up here. There's the pretzels.
Yep.
Shells. Roxana, I think, is down that way, maybe.
There's another one. Oh, this isn't strange or anything, but Plano's. They're the Reapers, which is a sweet mascot.
Plano is 35 minutes away from me.
Really? I told you I used to work with a guy that played on that team with Nick Nasty, right?
Yeah, you told me that. And then Nick Nasty, I think, lives somewhere up here. I know some of the assistant coaches from that team. They coach all over up here. Because
Yeah.
I always thought Plano was closer to us, and it's not. It's more up here. They're not a I don't even know if they're technically a suburb. But like I'm in Naperville, and it's 35 minutes that way. I don't even know if they're considered a suburb.
No, I think they're too far west to be a suburb, right?
Because like Yorkville is that way too.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird where that line stops because we're in Naperville, then you've got Aurora, then you have Oswego right here too. And then it just kind of goes towards Yorkville and Plano and all of them. And it's like, where's the line stop? Because then I think Rockford might be, well, I don't know. I think Rockford might be a suburb too, but they're northeast.
Yeah. I don't know. Because isn't Evanston technically like where Northwestern is? That's a suburb, right?
That's north. That's, yeah.
It's just North Chicago.
Yeah. And that's 2 pinkies up and some fun. Like, this is how we drink. That's those type of apartments where the elevator goes into your apartment. Like, that's kind of what you're dealing with.
Oh, you don't have a front door?
You have like 5 gates to get through, and then those elevators that just go right into your apartment.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's. Oh, this is our summer home, and then our winter home by people.
Yeah, and they're all in Chicago.
They're all in Chicago, and people say
winter in different areas of Chicago.
And to make this point out, because I just talked to a coach from Florida, he knows the Naperville area. Yeah, you're in Chicago. I said, no, I'm not in Chicago. I'm in DuPage County, which is west of the city. Don't be telling me I live in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because I told him how we grew up. When we say Chicago, it's just Chicago. Now that I live up here, I was like, no, I'm in Howell West.
No.
Cook County is the city.
Oh, speaking of which, this is way off topic, but I got a like, you have an unpaid bill thing in the mail. I was like, what is this? So I look at it, and it was from a speeding ticket in a Chicago suburb that I had never been to. And I'm like, what? And I looked into it. The car that I sold when I got my Jeep, the plates for that car are still in my name somehow. So they ran a red light in my old car, and I got a bill for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be paying that.
Oh, I didn't. I called them, and I was like, this isn't my car. They're like, well, it is technically your car. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm not paying this. So a little state of Illinois fun there. For anyone who doesn't live here, don't live here.
Like, I don't know if it's going to be DuPage County. I know in the city of Cook County, they're considering putting those speed cameras all over. So if you go over the limit, so if the speed limit's 35, it will track you even on the street. Not a stoplight, just on the street.
Oh, gross.
That Mayor Lightfoot is getting that pushed through because they need money.
Yeah, that's just it. They need money.
I don't think it's going to happen out here in DuPage County. All the thing we have up here is there's some you can't turn right on when it's red.
Which that gets people.
That's it. Yeah, I've almost done it a couple times.
Oh, I do it down here sometimes. Like we have a couple of those in Marion on my way to work, and I'll do it. Actually, I got pulled over one time for it, and it was like 4 a.m, and I'm going into work, and the guy was just like, just don't do it again and let me go. But
they don't pull you over for it. They just wait for that. It's more expensive for you if you get the thing in the mail from that thing. If a cop pulls you over, it's not going to be that bad. If you get that thing in the mail, it's more. It's like $150.
Which is crazy.
That's how the towns make their money.
Yeah.
Because they know they're going to get you.
It's like Homer by us.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Homer, Illinois.
But see, that's just cops. That's just
that's small town stuff. But
like coming back from Charleston, when you take 49 and you go into Homer, you're going 60, 65 on 49 because there's nothing. Then you come into Homer, it's like 45, and then like 10 feet, 30. And it's like, God, you're ever going 30.
And there's a cop parked right at that 30.
And by God, if you're going 31 and a half,
boom, you're done.
And then the worst is, and they have a cop that sits going into Seidel too, like Jamaica and Seidel.
right on the like east side.
Yeah, that undercover cop too. It's just this SUV that sits there and does nothing.
That we are way off subject right now. We're talking about cops in our home.
I mean, making 50 grand a year probably just to sit there in Sidell in Jamaica to pull people over going 32 and a half.
I mean,
Their foot's not even on the gas. They're just coasting. There's nothing. It's just coasting.
yeah. You're like actively braking to slow down.
It's worse for your car to brake than actually go 40.
Yeah. And I don't know. That's how, like you said, that's how those small towns make their money. And Chicago's a mess and needs money, so they're gonna start popping everybody.
Get this to get back to Illinois basketball. Never pump your brakes. Just all gas, no brakes. Don't let anybody slow you down.
Now, see, that's what they do sometimes, and then you have other games where they just like fiddle fart around and lose.
Depends on who they play.
Yeah,
because Duke, they wanted to go. And then Missouri, they just kind of overlooked them and was like, yeah. And then Missouri was like, we're going to hit every shot. We could close our eyes and it's going to go in. And then Illinois is like, you shouldn't have took your foot off the gas.
Yeah. And then Io like has to single-handedly bring us back.
Right. And then now you play Minnesota where you start slow, but then all of a sudden you kind of realize like we're pumping the brakes. We just need to go.
Yeah. Which is weird because Underwood really isn't an up-tempo guy.
No, but like he's not an up-tempo guy, but the way his offense works, just the motion, the switching spots and stuff, it looks like it.
It does.
He's more about reading and getting into space and attacking.
It's a slightly faster version of Wisconsin's offense, which I love. I like Wisconsin's offense.
Yeah. Wisconsin's just stagnant. At least we're a little more exciting. They're just very stagnant, but it works.
Wisconsin puts you to sleep and then stabs you in your sleep.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, they scored 90? And it's like, when did they do that?
How? When? I haven't seen them shoot in 5 minutes.
That's the weird thing with Wisconsin. They're going to score 90 and beat you by 40, or score 70 or 60 and still beat you by 40 or 30. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you just scored 90 the other night. You're playing a team that's exactly the same that you just played, and you only scored 65.
Do you remember when Illinois played Wisconsin and it was like 30-32 final score?
Yeah, it was something crazy.
That was like the Michael Pruitt era.
They pulled the Westville basketball when we were in high school. That would just, do you remember that, coach? I wish Nathan was here. I remember being in high school. That coach,
I remember they beat Armstrong Potomac doing that.
They did that against us. Like once they got up by like 10, it was my junior or senior year. They got up by 10. They literally stood by the half court line and stood there and was like, I'm not going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off.
Like, yeah.
I would never do that as a coach.
No, it's power.
It's smart because you want to win. But then it's like, you even had your own fans booing. Like,
here's the thing, though. If you're going to do that, the referee needs to 5 count somebody.
Well, at the moment you brought up a guy because you have to be within, 5 feet or whatever, or 3 feet, whatever it is. And the moment we walk up there, they pass it over to the next person.
Well, then you have to play pressure defense.
Yeah, and then they just go to that wheel that like what Illinois kind of does sometimes, that wheel at the court, and then they get back.
Yep. I don't know.
And the reason why they started doing that is because they knew they had to do it against Salt Fork and Chrisman. Because Salt Fork was really good and Chrisman was going to shoot 3. So they were kind of like, if we can somehow compete and only be, even if we're up by 2, we're going to stand there.
Yep. Which is so cowardly.
He's a Hall of Fame coach too from Westville too. That's the thing, is he won a lot of games.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it pissed me off.
If you're on that team though, like I'd be pissed if that was our game plan.
Especially the football players that went to state that year who are all about being athletic at the time. Like they didn't do it much then, but
Westville at the time had some dudes.
Oh, their athletics were real good. Football and basketball, and then baseball was competent. I don't think they had a track team really, because Nathan's kind of getting that going there now. But like, yeah, there was a time there where Westville and Salt Fork were cream. of the crop. And
Yeah. I mean, they still kind of are. Westville's always had good athletes.
because they have those those tough kids.
They were always tough. You should get Cameron Lee on here one day and ask him about Pratt sticking his finger up his helmet at the end of the game when we beat them at Westville. I remember I was down in my stance and I look over and Cameron Lee, I played with him in high school, goes on, plays in the NFL. And this kid, we're sitting there down in our stance, Cameron's playing center, and a kid reaches up under Cameron's face mask and sticks his finger in Cameron's nose. And I was just like, what a POS. That game was fun too, because I don't remember if we got him kicked out. It was a Pratt. Was it Brandon? No.
Is that the one at Westville?
Cody Pratt. I think it was Cody Pratt. He's playing linebacker. And me and Jake McLaughlin kept yelling woo during the game. And at the end of the game, we're just screaming. Like Jacob's at right tackle, I'm at left tackle, and he's like, woo, 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 woo. And we get down in our stance, we're quiet. And Cody Pratt goes, would you two shut the fuck up? And Trace got down under center, and he's like, you got a potty mouth. And then hiked the ball.
That was a mud fest.
It was that entire season. It like rained every Friday.
Especially the St. Joe one for the playoff. Where, no offense to Cameron, he was your punter, and there was a bad snap, and he took off. And I remember he gained a lot of yards, but it was like a slow pick up your foot, free throw off the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Cameron's not slow. That was just a mud pit, so it was like he had to pick his feet up really big. Like,
I remember like I remember going to that game, and like first round of the playoffs around us, it's cold. And it had been raining all day. And St. Joe's Field kind of sits in a dip. And we walk out onto the field, and I took 2 steps onto that field, and my cleats got waterlogged. And it's like 40 degrees. And this is going to suck. And then to stretch before the game, we just did static stretching. And we had to lay down in the wet.
They're going to get turf.
We're getting pissed off.
They're going to get turf because Unity got turf. They're not far behind.
Get the old pissing contest going.
Do you remember, and we're getting way off topic, so we'll have to wrap up after that, but you want to talk about mud bowls. Remember your freshman year we had to go to Petersburg, Porta, where it rained literally Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
And that whole game was like a rainstorm.
They had 4 pools on their field. And the only reason why we scored, they did not give up a point all year. And we scored 14. The only reason why was because they fumbled it and Caleb Creighton picked it up and ran and scored. Yeah. Then they fumbled near the goal line and we got the ball back and scored. That's the only reason why. But then we couldn't tap.
So good.
Those ruined those white jerseys. That Petersburg. Sorry for you guys. That Petersburg Porta game ruined those white jerseys. For you guys, they were no longer.
Yeah. They were never really white again after that. It was funny because like my senior year, I switched numbers. So they ordered me a jersey and it came in white.
And the rest were like dark.
The first time we were like in our road uniforms, I remember looking at my jersey and looking at my pants, and I was like, oh, these pants have seen some shit.
Well, because your senior year, so we went through the Petersburg Porta game, which the biggest mud pit I've ever seen. And then my senior year, when we went to Milford, that was another mud pit where they ran hide the midget play, and it pissed me off. Thanks, Coach Albaugh, for running hide the midget.
Yep.
So we just ruined everything for that. Like, it was just, and I remember there were some players I did not want to lay down in the mud and be in the cold. Then us linemen, we're like diving into it. We're just like, we've been in a sand pit. We're right by the cows. Yeah. We don't care.
the amount of times we had to run like drills through that sand pit and I just got sand kicked in my eyes.
Oh,
God.
I tell some players that they're like talking about this, and I'm like, I told a coach this. I was like, just bear crawl in the sand, and they go, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, just get a sand pit and bear crawl." Is that what you guys did? Is that abuse? I was like, I don't know.
Kind of was.
Porter was the coolest game of my life. The only time I touched the field was,
Yeah, that was brutal. It
yeah,
wouldn't
because
be bad if you're playing, but if you're not.
well, because then I remember my senior year, someone got hurt, and Coach Jennifer was like, "I need a lineman," and Jacob's already halfway on the field before he even finished the sentence to come
Oh, I
play.
remember that. Little fun fact, headed to that game, you guys were playing Arthur Lovington.
Yep.
Okay. We were headed to that game, and Jacob and I were sitting on the bus together on the way there. And instead of like listening to music, we were listening to a Lewis Black comedy special. And we're both sitting there like trying not to, because you remember like it used to be very like you sit on this bus and you think about how much you love football. And we're sitting there like laughing our asses off. And I remember Caleb Creighton like looking at us and being like, "What the fuck are you doing?" What? No, that wasn't Caleb Creighton. It was Corey Panko.
I think I was sitting with Corey too, because me and Corey sat together because we were both the right side of the line.
Yeah, you and I were friends, but like you looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And we couldn't help it. I mean, neither one of us thought we were going to play.
Well, first of all, I didn't know it was you guys. So I told
Yeah.
Corey, and then I turned around and I was like, my eyes got big. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
And then that game, I remember Jake and I were standing next to each other, and we were like holding the pads, we were just talking. And then I hear Sanford yell that he needs a lineman, and I look back at Jacob, and he's gone. He's like on the field. And I give him a lot of credit because he played every game after that.
Well, that earned all of us respect. We were just kind of like, this guy wants to help.
Yeah. And Jacob at the time was built like a brick shit house because he just baled hay and scooped shit all day.
Well, because we went to the coaches after that game. We were like, we got to put him at left tackle.
Yeah. And it worked. Who was it that he replaced?
Weddle.
Oh, yeah, but you didn't miss anything.
We should have played Jacob before that. No offense to Mr. Weddle if he ever listens, but
yeah,
he was a better nose guard for defense than offensive tackle. So no offense to him. If he Mr. Weddle, not Coach Weddle, Mr. Weddle, you ever listen? No disrespect, because we went to school together. You were just a better nose guard than an offensive tackle.
You know what? Like, there are a lot of things that we did in high school that I think about, like, game plan wise, that made no sense. But you know, the one thing that Gary Denhart did that I loved was he had undersized, really fast guards.
Well, because his toss play was a quote unquote buck sweep.
Yeah.
But it was a toss. And I will say this, Coach Denhart is only the coach I've ever had or been around that's got me so pumped up.
Oh, yeah. He was good.
Punched the wall my junior year for our homecoming. Punched the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And we come to school that Monday, and his fist is the size of a softball.
I don't remember if you came into the locker room or not, but my favorite Gary Denhart thing of all time was like my junior year. I remember I was a little bummed out because I didn't get named a captain my junior year. I thought I had deserved it. And it pissed me off because Arlen Kirst was a captain, which it shouldn't have. Like, I wasn't ready for that gig. I really wasn't my senior year either. But I remember us losing or like tied to Arthur Lovington our first game of the year. And we came in and it was like quiet in the locker room. And just something came over me and I got real pissed off. And I like stood up and gave this speech during halftime. And it fired everybody up. Like, I don't try to say I'm good at that kind of thing, but that was the one time in my life I did a good job at it, I think. And as soon as we got done, we were like getting up to get out the door. And Coach Denhart runs in the room and just basically was like, yeah, everything he said.
But see, that's what he was good at that stuff. So if somebody gave this great speech, he was just going to be like, "Yep."
Yeah.
But I'll never forget. I don't want to get him in trouble. I'll never forget homecoming my junior year of him punching the wall and saying some things I'm not going to repeat because it's the locker room. But he punched the wall.
Yeah.
And
a lot of dumb stuff happened in that locker room.
But we were the only Vermilion County school to have a locker room.
Yep. Yeah, you weren't there for scissors in the fan game, were you?
I heard about it, and I don't want to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we want to wrap this up before we?
Yeah, we probably should. I got work.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining this slapdick version of the show. Coach West didn't join us. He's texting us right now.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Thank you, Jacob, for listening and giving your input. I appreciate it all the time.
Absolutely.
So, guys, we'll see you guys next time.